Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 11, Episode 48. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Glad to be back with you guys for this Wednesday show. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone in Steelers Nation. All right, emergency edit here on the Terrible Podcast. This news just came in like 5 to 10 minutes after Dave and I recorded a Wednesday show. The NFL has announced they have postponed the Thursday night Thanksgiving game between the Pittsburgh Steelers and Baltimore Ravens to Sunday afternoon as of this recording, which again is coming just moments after the news has been announced. We do not know the time or the channel that game will be broadcast again. We just know Sunday afternoon right now. So disregard some of the things that Dave and I will say later on in the podcast about this game and discussing the COVID situation. Obviously, that's the reason why this game has been postponed. Apparently, there are up to now 7 Baltimore Ravens who have tested positive for coronavirus. So happens again to the Steelers, unfortunately. No fault of their own, but another game gets shifted around.
So wait a minute. What you're telling me is what people are fixing to listen to. There might be some instances where I'm wrong.
Well, you should have given it that 0.0001% chance on Monday's show.
Oh, Lord. I'm going to have to lose this audio. No.
Well, to be fair, the game's not canceled. It's just been moved.
What do you think about all this? Before we get into, we're talking past what we've already talked. This is going to be weird how people are listening to this, but real quick, I mean, this you want to talk about unfortunates on top of unfortunates for the 2020 Steelers. I mean, obviously the COVID, the players that test positive this week will still not be able to play in the game. We'll see. Someone's trying to tell me that Calais Campbell might be a tested positive. I haven't seen that yet, but if he's not, then Calais Campbell is obviously a guy that benefits by a couple more days rest with that calf injury if he's able to play there. We don't know what's happening with Derek Wolfe yet here, but what do you think about the league's decision to do this?
Well, yeah, just to get the numbers on it, this is from Dan Graziano of ESPN. This is just, I'm reading verbatim here, his tweet. Ravens have had 7 players test positive over the last 3 days. Ingram, Dobbins, McSorley, McPhee, Skura, Campbell, Macari, per source. The league wants to use the extra days to continue testing, tracing, so game postponed. So this is really just a carbon copy of what happened against Tennessee. It's not necessarily that the Ravens don't have enough players to play. It's the continual trickle of positive tests. And if you're going to a game not sure how many more guys are going to test positive, it's pretty hard to go in that game and play with any level of confidence and risking exposure. So it sucks for the Steelers. It's the stuff we said in the Titans game. Out of their control, no fault of their own. I saw Juju's comments. He's unhappy with what the league is doing. He says, first, the NFL takes away our bye week because another team can't get their COVID situation together. Now they take away our Thanksgiving primetime game for the same reason. SMH, which means shaking my head for those not in the know. It sucks. Nothing more you can say about it.
Yeah, I was more lenient when we saw what had happened to the Titans early on in the season, but oh boy, they got to feel really, really slighted now. You know, if you didn't before, with the way this is going down and the timing of it and the opponents, you know, I mean, what can you do? We'll bitch about it all day on Twitter. We'll probably write a few articles on it all, but it's not. It is what it is. It really just sucks, and I can imagine that this really does have several players and members of the organization upset, especially when you had a guy last week like Ben Roethlisberger not practice, right? You know, was that last week or my
before the Bengals game? It was the week before.
Yeah, right. The week before the Bengals game there, and technically ran a risk of him not playing, and at the very least he had to play with not practicing there. So. Does this look to be tilted against the Steelers? Yeah, it's hard to analyze it any other way. So, anyways, enjoy what you're about to hear. The breakdowns, none of that's really going to change. And I don't know. We'll get back into it on Friday a little bit more.
What are we doing Friday? We just discovered everything. Figure it out, I guess.
I guess we'll figure it out as we go and see what's changed. We'll recap. I guess we'll be recapping a lot of how the Steelers felt like they got slighted on this one. And anyway, enjoy the rest of the show.
A little bit later on in the show, since it is Ravens week, we had our buddy John Eisenberg to discuss the Baltimore Ravens, everything that's going on with them, and previewing this game. Be sure to follow John on Twitter at @BMoreEisenberg. He is a writer for Ravens.com and author of many books, including The League and The Streak, and he's always a terrific interview, Dave.
Absolutely he is. Always blessed to have him on, and great friend of the show. And he's kind of the Tom Hanks, Steve Martin to Saturday Night Live. That's what he is to the Terrible Podcast, if you will. So always grateful to have him on. All right, you ready to walk? Grab my hand, Alex. Let's walk through some minutia together.
All right. I keep telling you to stop saying that. That's never going to work.
No, it's not. Once I get a hold of something, I beat it into the ground. So minutia us up.
All right, we'll start the minutia with the Pittsburgh Steelers injury report on Tuesday. Monday was their estimated injury report, so it was hard to really get a gauge, and there was many players who did not practice or in their estimation. But for yesterday, when the team did return to practice, most players were able to go in full, but several were out or limited. Those include Juju Smith-Schuster, limited with a foot. Let me go down through the list here. Kim Hayward with an ankle, Ben with a quad, and a couple of players who did not practice include running backs Trey Edmonds with his hamstring, Jalen Samuels with his quad, and Joe Hayden did not practice Tuesday with that knee injury he suffered in the second half of the Jacksonville game. So we'll get the injury report today, get game statuses on these guys. Have your thoughts and feelings on who will and won't play changed at all since we talked Monday, Dave?
Look, I don't think because of the type of practice. If you look at the photos on Steelers.com, which I do every day after practice and all like that, it don't look like they did much of anything. Really, I don't even think Ben really did much of anything. I think he said as much that he's not going to throw as much this week with it being a short week. Juju with that foot, obviously, when you look back at some of the still photos and it was concerning, I think, how he kind of twisted that foot there, but at least he was listed as a limited practice participant. Maybe Joe Hayden's the more serious of the two here with the knee. He did not practice, but once again, I think trying to read an injury report any week when it comes to the Steelers and not actually being there is tough. It's even tougher, I think, on a short week especially when they didn't do anything overall. I'm not concerned about Cameron Hayward. I'm not concerned about none of the non-injury people. I'm not concerned about Ben. Really, for the most part, Trey Edmonds and Jalen Samuels, who cares? I hate to say that, but I mean, those are guys that are fringe guys anyway. So I think it all boils down to Hayden and Smith-Schuster here, right? I think those are the two guys that we're going to be watching the most as when the Wednesday injury report comes out, and then obviously when we get into the pregame inactives right now. I would think, and I'm guessing here, that both guys in the week listed as questionable.
Yeah, I really think the goal of this week is less about practicing as it is just getting guys ready to play for Thursday on this short weekend. So I still think that Juju and Hayden will play. No guarantees, of course. I'm probably a little more confident in Juju right now based off of practice participation than Joe Hayden. But I think Steelers, Ravens, those guys don't want to miss primetime spot like this. My guess is both those guys are going to suit up and play in this one.
All right. What about some of the other roster moves or whatnot? I think we got some more to talk about here.
Busy day roster moves yesterday, and I know you wrote things up, so if I missed anything, feel free to jump in here, Dave. But Zach Gentry was officially placed on IR with that knee injury. Now, the report from me and Rappaport is it is a knee sprain, so this does not look like a season-ending, super incredibly serious type of injury, so that is good news. Vance McDonald was activated off of COVID, although, as you can touch on, you think there might be some sort of exception there for the time being. Tight end Kevin Rader was signed from the practice squad, the former the blocking tight end from Youngstown State's been on the practice squad for the last couple of years, so his first time on the 53. And what else am I missing here, Dave, in terms of roster moves?
The Christian Kuntz.
Oh, right, the long snapper / outside linebacker, was signed to the practice squad. So those round out the roster moves. And again, technically, it would appear the Steelers roster sits at 54 right now, with Vance being activated from COVID and Kevin Rader being signed. But there has to be some sort of exemption there for McDonald. We're guessing. You're guessing at least.
Well, that's what the sheet says.
Okay, is that what it says?
Things like that drive me mad. I'm so anal retentive when it comes to the little minutia things like that it drove for about 5 hours. I was unhinged just because the numbers were not working right there. I thought, well, surely they missed something. Maybe Kevin Rader is a elevation because the way the numbers were looking, it looked like the Steelers had a 54-man roster there. And actually, in all actuality, they do, because right now, as it turns out, I had to wait for the sheet to come out. Vance McDonald is on an exemption right now. So, and that combined with kind of the things that Randy Fichtner said, and this being a short week and all, Alex, and because Kevin Rader is now not an elevation, he was signed off of the practice squad to the 53-man roster. I don't think it's a slam dunk that Vance McDonald's in uniform Thursday night against the Ravens.
You don't think? I think he's going to be out there. He's practicing. He's healthy. I'm not sure what the reason would be to not play him. Okay,
if he is, now look, obviously the exemption would have to end with him, right?
Of course, yeah.
All right, so who comes off of the roster? Trey Edmonds?
Yeah, I'm thinking one of those guys gets IR'd, probably Edmonds or Jalen Samuels, but probably one of those guys are going to be gone.
All right, within that, does Kevin Rader still dress? Do they dress 3 tight ends?
I'd have to look at the rest of the inactives. It, obviously dependent on the health of the guys around them. So potentially, but also potentially not, just depending on what the health of the team overall looks like.
All right, because they could have waited on. Technically, they could have waited another day, right, with Kevin Rader, and then elevated him.
True. So that may be a sign that they do plan to dress him and help that run game out and some short yardage stuff. So my guess is that he would dress, but again, I haven't looked at the whole lay of the land in terms of other inactives.
All right. As you can see, I got the tinfoil hat kind of strapped up. Oh, it's Ravens week, man. I got a double chin strap on this thing today.
You wearing that to Thanksgiving around the Thanksgiving table? You got your tinfoil
right?
hat
Absolutely.
On?
Yeah, right. My wife got something to deal with today because actually today we celebrate Thanksgiving today. We do two-day Thanksgiving, and as soon as this podcast gets on, you might actually be able to get me off a little bit earlier today because I gotta have Thanksgiving dinner kind of waiting for me.
That's the key to non-2-hour shows is. It's a big turkey. But no, you're not turkey, right? You're ham?
No, both of them.
You're both.
Turkey and ham here. But back to I just don't think it's a slam dunk. And even if McDonald does dress, I think Kevin Rader does as well too. I'm not a Kevin Rader stan, if you will. What does that even mean? What does stan mean? It gets thrown around
big
on
fan. Big fan, I guess.
Is that what it means?
I'm scared that you even know the phrase "stan."
Is it some sort of Eminem reference or something, or I don't know.
I don't know the origins. I don't think that's true, but it just means big diehard fan.
Okay, I don't even know. All I know is people use it, and I don't know what it means. All right.
And then you immediately started repeating it.
Right. Exactly. Because how do you do, fellow kids? I want to be with the cool kids here. So do you even know the origins or what it means or no?
I know what it
means. It means big fan or something, right?
Diehard fan. Yeah, I don't know the origins, and I don't wish to know the origins of where
I
these
do.
phrases
That's part of the minutia on top of the minutia that I need to know. But anyway,
and you want to be one of the cool kids? You're talking about minutia.
Look, I used to be the cool kid. All right, so don't give me no flap here.
I don't know what it's like. I've never been anything remotely related to cool, so I can only
not even close.
Not even close.
No. All right.
Not even for a moment. It sounds nice. It sounds like it's pretty cool. But
now, look, I've been on both sides of it before, but it's much better on the cool kid side. I'll tell you that.
Now you're just bragging.
the kid that gets picked, Yeah.
Oh, what a great feeling that must be. Anyway.
All right. Back to McDonald here. I think there's a scenario. I think there's a scenario where all three tight ends dress. And back to Kevin Radar. Just from general, and we haven't seen hardly, you obviously, there was no training camp for you to be practices at and all like that. Just going off kind of mostly his college film here. This guy might be the best blocking tight end on the roster right now, and that's even with Vance McDonald healthy right now. And there's a little, that could obviously be disputed here. What I'm getting at here is if this team wants to try to maybe run the football on Thursday night against the Ravens and potentially a Ravens defensive line that's going to be without, maybe up to maybe a three guys there. A perfect opportunity to give Kevin Radar some snaps in there. And if that's what happens, I'll be front and center to break down the snaps.
Yeah, I'm all for it. I think it's an all hands-on-deck approach to keep this run game without Sunday against Jacksonville was a first step, but only a first step in the more physical bodies you can have to improve this run game, even if it is just situational football, because so many of these Ravens games are close and come down to short yardage, goal line, making that one play late in the game, whatever the case is. I am all for it. So, and we did watch Rader. He was in camp 2 years ago. So
right.
We saw him in preseason in camp. And so he is a good blocker. That's really all he is. But if he can give you just a couple of goal line snaps or something like that, 13 personnel, then I'm all for it.
And also he can fill some holes he should be able to fill some holes for you on special teams, right? I mean, you would expect him to be out there on a few of the special teams units, I would think, if you draft him.
Yeah, maybe kick return. I don't know if anything else, but maybe at least kick return.
Okay, we'll see how the rest of the inactive list goes. Obviously, Joshua Dobbs will be on that list. I'm willing to bet, assuming Trey Edmonds is on, remains through the weekend here, he'll be inactive. I'm willing to bet Jalen Samuels will be inactive. So that's already possible 3 inactives. One of the defensive linemen, either Carlos Davis or Isaiah Buggs, is bound to be inactive too. So it just comes down to who might wind up being the fifth and final inactive here.
And just to make the point very clear again, they will have to make a roster move of some sort before the game, correct?
If they want McDonald on the roster, I don't know. There's no expiration. I don't know how long the exemption is on Vance McDonald. So that's the only gray area that we don't know. But obviously, if McDonald is going to dress and play, that exemption needs to be lifted, and a corresponding move would have to be made because right now they're technically a 54-man roster.
Right. Gotcha. All right, Dave, some other happenings around the league, and obviously the reason why we've kind of danced around, will this game happen? I know we both think that it likely will, but the fact there are questions is all because of COVID-related stuff happening in Baltimore, and I don't know exactly the timeline in terms of where things were at. On Monday, I think that's when the news broke that there were positive cases. We didn't know names or numbers, but we now know that several Ravens players have reportedly tested positive and placed on the COVID list. Those guys include running backs J.K. Dobbins, Mark Ingram, nose tackle Brandon Williams, I believe outside linebacker Pernell McPhee as well, and more cases could pop up here in the next 24 hours. So Baltimore, obviously a team that's pretty desperate for a win on a losing streak, now without significant pieces on both sides of the football, heading into presumably tomorrow's game.
Yeah, I forgot to even mention Pernell McPhee when we're talking to John during the interview there. But that's another one there. And we're, I don't know what to read into this. Well, I think I know what to read into this Derek Wolfe situation with him. He showed up on the injury report with an illness. We'll see. We'll know here pretty soon whether or not he's probably going to play or not. I guess at this point, being listed as an illness and kind of his reaction on Twitter this morning, I don't know. We'll see. That would be a huge loss for them as well, too. We'll see what happens with Calais Campbell and that calf. John Eisenberg, as he'll tell us in an interview, doesn't think that he'll go there. So this is definitely a wounded team in the Ravens on both sides of the football here. So obviously not having both of their starting running backs is huge. However, Gus Edwards has carried the football plenty in his NFL career, especially against the Steelers. Had a good game against them a couple of weeks ago, and obviously Week 17 game last season wasn't bad as well too. So it's no wonder why there is some question about this game with the amount of players. But assuming that amount has ended, at the time that this podcast is being recorded, then I don't see a reason. It's just going to be one of those, welcome to 2020 COVID in the NFL here. I think the game gets played.
Yeah, obviously, I think the point you made about Gus Edwards is important. He's had 200 yards combined. I think his last two games against Pittsburgh, Week 17, and the matchup earlier this year. And so you don't want to assume anything, but obviously, this is a Pittsburgh team that struggled in the trenches on both sides of the football in the first matchup. Given the fact that the Ravens don't have their speed component with J.K. Dobbins, who was a perimeter presence, that the Steelers, without Devin Bush, certainly you felt the impact there. Having Tyson Alualu back for this game, Baltimore not having one of their key cogs in the middle defensively, and Brandon Williams. I mean, you better win the battle of the trenches, or at least be a lot more competitive this time around than you were in the first matchup.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, you haven't been able to run the football like you want to be able to run the football from a success ratio factor. It got a little bit better in this game this last week, but you faced a couple of defensive fronts and teams that you thought you kind of figured it'd be better than what it was. And now you potentially going to face a Ravens defensive front that hasn't been good against the run. This team's probably worn out. There's a whole Derrick Henry factor to this game as well, too. That son of a gun will wear your butt down, and he absolutely did. That's one of the things we talked about when going back to that Steelers-Titans game, and it's the thing that makes the Titans such a dangerous team is if they're close in ball games and they have Derrick Henry on the field. That was my biggest concern going into that game is what's going to happen later in the game if a game's close against the Titans and Derrick Henry can still be given the football. Well, we saw it, right? Walked them off, and that team was just worn out between trying to tackle Brown, the wide receiver, and tackle Derrick Henry. No muss at the end of that one. And short week, going to play a little bit into this. Obviously, the COVID situation as well too. Look, just from an outsider view, this does not set up very well for the Ravens overall, but that's why they play the games, right?
Right, and again, I said it on Monday, it's a very small thing, but the fact that Baltimore is coming off a Sunday game where they had to go into overtime against a very physical Tennessee Titans team versus a Pittsburgh team that rested their starters halfway through the fourth quarter. Again, small advantage, but I'll take any small advantage you can get coming on a short week against Baltimore, given these games are typically pretty close.
All right, Randy Fichtner, Keith Butler, and Ben Roethlisberger all had their media sessions on what day was that? What day is
Tuesday.
it? Tuesday.
Yeah, Tuesday. Well, there was one other piece of news here I want to get before we get to them. Given the elevation in COVID cases, especially in Allegheny County and throughout PA, I know that I think this news came after Monday's podcast that the Steelers, this Thursday game will be the last game of the year that Pittsburgh will have fans at Heinz Field. Now the capacity is limited to 2,500, so that will only be for obviously players, staff, coaches, and close friends and family of the players and team. The general public will not be admitted into Heinz Field after Thursday's game with Baltimore, and so that is an unfortunate reality of 2020.
Yeah, and at the very least, I think specifically they outlined that the first game in December at home against the Washington football team greatly impacted, and you would think their second and final remaining home game is against the Colts at towards the end of December, right? You would think, even though they haven't come out and said it, they're preparing you, right? If you have tickets, look, if you have tickets and you're going to go to see the Ravens Steelers game, God bless you, because that might be the last home game you get to witness this year. Obviously, it's not set in stone past the Washington game, but it certainly seems like it's setting up that way, right?
Yeah, I don't really see any scenario where they reverse course this season. But I just want to mention that, obviously, unfortunate, but tough decisions that had to be made this season. All right, Dave, let's get to the interviews with Ben and Fichtner and Keith Butler. Where do you want to start?
Where do I want to start here? Let's start with what he had to say about where was I?
Well, I can lead things off here with Keith Butler talking about Lamar Jackson and kind of a humble answer from Keith Butler saying, do you have Lamar Jackson's number? Can you share it? And he said, we don't have Lamar Jackson's number, and it's always the constant battle. And so while Pittsburgh, I think, has done about as good of a job against Lamar as any defense has, it's because they've had to focus so much on him, and that allows other guys like Gus Edwards or in the previous matchup of J.K. Dobbins to take advantage of that. So we'll see how the Steelers approach things. Will they continue to do that mesh charge? Keith Butler kind of implied that we'll do the same stuff. We're not adding anything new, given that it is a short week. But the fact that you've concentrated so much on Lamar opens things up for everybody else.
Yeah, absolutely. There. Look, I don't think if you look at the way they were able to run that football in that game, regardless, there's reason to be concerned there. I don't. It was a win. It was but you take it at what it was. I think they. I hope they ran to the plane after that game,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because it did come down to the final play there. They fortunately. Look, no secret about Lamar Jackson so far. He has trouble holding on to the football, right? One of the knocks on him has been the amount of times that he fumbles. And then also they stole a couple in that game. Robert Spillane did a great job getting that pick six right out of the chute. And God bless Alex Highsmith for learning in game, being able to get a key interception in that game as well too. What happens though if you don't? And you can what if every game like this. What happens if you didn't get those turnovers in that game there? Probably talking about a little bit different story there. I think the biggest thing that people need to know going into this game is this is still a Ravens football team offensively that's still deadly, I think, potential with a running attack, even though they don't have Nick Boyle, even though they don't have J.K. Dobbins, even though they don't have Mark Ingram. We already hit on Gus Edwards at the top of the show there. This is a team that I think, and if you don't defend Lamar Jackson properly, all it takes is once. And 65 yards later, he's in the end zone in this. So I think in so many words, and I think Keith Butler tried to make it clear. What happened a couple weeks ago is over with there. This is still a potent Ravens offense here, especially running the football.
It is. As long as they have Lamar and they still have the same sound run scheme, I mean, it is a 60-minute challenge. There's a reason why they are still the number one rushing team in football. And again, all the energy you have to expend on Lamar makes life tougher for the rest of your defense trying to deal with the running back. Because even if you mesh charge and you go after Lamar and force the give to the back, then you are down one defender who's attacking Jackson to try to stop the running back. So now you might be only 6v6 with the running back, or maybe you're -1, only have 5 defenders versus 6 blockers to tackle the running back. And that gave Pittsburgh a lot of problems in the first matchup, and is a big reason why Baltimore ran for 265 on them. So no guarantees, no assumptions, even if the Ravens are hurting because of the COVID-related issues.
Absolutely. So what else Keith Butler said? Talked about Avery Williamson. There's a potential of him maybe getting more playing time, but in so many words, Keith Butler said, we like what's going on defensively right now, so why would we change it?
Yeah, but I do have the X Factor article I wrote this morning for Steelers Deep. I put the X Factor on Vince Williams and Robert Spillane for those guys to get off blocks. Spillane in particular being able to stay clean and work off these offensive linemen who climb to the second level and do a better job of block deconstruction and block shedding, because you're probably going to be in a lot of one-on-one battles where you're even in the box count where it is, like I said, 6-on-6. And so one of those guys has to make their play one-on-one and tackle the running back. And so Spillane has been a bit of an issue this year, is getting off of blocks. He's physical, he's attacking, he's a violent player, but he needs to work on his hand use a little bit, getting off of blocks. And so that is going to be, I think, one of the big keys to how well or how poorly this team defends the run.
But you're not starting Avery Williamson in this game, right?
No, I'm not even entertaining the idea, but I'm just saying it's got to be a big game for Robert Spillane.
Right. As we've talked since this whole thing went down, we try to reemphasize, it's a not now, but it could be. Spillane will have to play himself out of the position. Is it possible that happens? Sure, it's possible that happens. But right now, I know fans treat these new players like new toys at Christmas. They're in a hurry I'm done with the old version. I want the new toy to play with. Give me more of that there. But right now, there's no reason to do that. Now, did Avery Williamson has he seen the field some? Yeah, but it's been fortunate situations. It's been the best of both worlds so far. You've been able to get him snaps on the field in blowout situations there. But I think Keith Butler made a point to say, look, he's still trying to learn things, yada yada. When we get to playoff time, might this guy be the starter? I don't think you can completely rule that out. But for right now, look, I mean, there's no reason to sit Robert Spillane down. Now, obviously, if you get into a situation here where he's still having to trouble with a few of these fills and maybe getting off blocks, maybe you potentially look at it. But in so many words, I think that's where Keith Butler was going, and it's really what we've said all along. Don't expect Avery Williamson to come here, walk in off the street, and play 50 snaps a game.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything else from Keith Butler you want to touch on, or Randy Fichtner? I know he talked up Eric Ebron and Juju and the value of Vance. Take your pick there.
Just one of the things that we already hit on talking about Vance McDonald. The comments that he made makes it a little bit curious about what's going to happen with Vance McDonald there. Are you having to monitor Ben's passing? Monitor his attempts and all like that, and he says he's not really worried about that. Running game, in so many words, James Conner is going to continue to be the feature runner for now, right?
Yeah, he talked up Conner about his conditioning, the health and trust, and also in pass protection. Let me find the exact quote here about him in Pass Pro if I can find it here. I'm just trying to read through it here quickly. Yeah, he's really deserving of being a third down back. He's a really solid pass protector, and that was one of the film rooms I did this week where I know that Conner has struggled, and I think even in terms of a ball placement standpoint, he's had some more issues there now that we can kind of dive into the all-22. But in terms of the trust they have with him, his pass protection, his recognition, ability to square up and be physical and take on blitzers, for a team that has obviously passed first, second, and third and very pass-heavy, throwing the ball 40-plus times, I think, for the last 5 games, you better have a running back that you trust in pass protection to scan and pick up blitzes and protect your quarterback. And Conner has done an excellent job of that. Not quite to the Le'Veon Bell level, but not too far behind. And so that's the big reason why you're playing Conner, even if some of the run game struggles are there, because you just have a lot of trust in that guy to get the job done in pass pro.
Right, and as one listener, we answered the question the other day, right? The thing about Anthony McFarland too, yeah, you want to try to get him on the field and get him more snaps, and is it a little bit disappointing what the team has gotten out of him so far? Sure, it's okay to say that, I think, but on the flip side too, wasn't asked, even though the willingness was there in pass protection at Maryland and in college, he just didn't do it a lot. And you got a franchise quarterback in there and a lot of the unknowns and probably some of the schemes and not being able to fully trust him yet. It's not Noel Moore yet, okay? And it's going to take a while to get the trust. And it's one of the things going back to you and I talking ahead of the season about a guy like Anthony McFarland and kind of what to kind of expect. I thought 100 touches was just seemed monumental. If he could get to 100 or 100 snaps, I should say, if he could get to 100 snaps, I thought that was kind of monumental there. And he's going to struggle to come anywhere close to that, I think, right now. I would still, however, like to get him on the field and try to work him out of this and try to get him in a situation to put him in place where he can succeed on a pass out of the backfield. Maybe some sort of I know crack toss is probably a bad word right now, still from the Todd Haley years, but something along those lines where you can get him in a potential to get him a little confidence and success.
And Fichtner did mention that. He said, especially on a short week, you could see more of a rotation because they're going to really have to have this all hands on deck approach. And he said, quote, "I do believe that Benny Snell is deserving of more carries. We're trying to get Anthony McFarland in situations. Some have arrived, and he's able to get a little flow down in Dallas. He just didn't get a chance to play last week." So I think given the fact that it is a short week, and this applies to both teams, obviously, you will see more rotations and probably not going to see Conner play the volume of snaps that he has just because, guys are still pretty sore trying to go from the Sunday to Thursday turnaround.
Sure. All right. Anything else? I didn't think anything really else stuck out big from what Randy said. I can't wait to get to the Ben Roethlisberger quotes, though.
Okay. Well, let me do one more thing on Randy, and then we'll talk about Ben because I know
you want to fire him,
don't
don't
go
you?
with that. No, I don't want to fire him. Just talking about Eric Ebron and kind of just the impact he's had on and off the field. And what did Tomlin say? The zest for life that Eric Ebron has. And Randy Fichtner kind of said similar. And I don't know if you watched it yet, but I watched and it's a great series. The Bud brought a buddy, and he had Eric Ebron on yesterday. And just a really fun dude Ebron is. It kind of brings a source of levity that's probably important for any team, but especially in a chaotic year like this. And so Ebron, I think, is making a big impact on and off the field.
probably a guy like me too. You probably can't shut him up when you get around him, right? Probably.
It's kind of what Randy said.
Probably this dude stopped talking and stopped talking about himself and how great he is and whatnot. Look, he's got one of those personalities, right? I mean, I bet here's the thing that I took away too from what Randy said. The guy goes all out in practice. All right, so he's a good practice player. I think Randy said as much. But on the flip side, he says this guy probably could stand to talk a little bit less in practice. But that's who he is. That's who Eric Ebron is. I don't think he backs down from a microphone, if you will. And I mean, I think everybody kind of knew that going into this with him, right, before signing him.
That he was a big personality.
Yeah. Look, he wasn't afraid to chime in on social media, and those kind of things.
Yeah, but I think it's obviously been an overall positive for Pittsburgh. They kind of just have that big personality and someone that's happy and makes guys happier to be around him. And not what does Tomlin say, an energy giver, not like an energy sucker, I think was the phrasing that he uses. And I think that's the kind of the guy that Eric Ebron is. I think
it's a guy that you don't mind the microphone being in front of him when you're winning, but be careful when the microphone's in front of them if you're losing, and I think that's kind of, look, I mean, Colts fans and Lions fans can't stand him.
Yeah, I've always tried to understood that, and I don't know the details of exactly why there was so much animosity between those two sides. Maybe it was, just the rough times and things kind of spoiling over. I don't know, but I just know that Ebron is a big reason why this team is winning and why this team is 10-0. He's making big plays in the red zone, on third down, coming up clutch in a lot of crucial situations, and so he's a large component to why they're 10-0.
I certainly understand it, and it goes back to what I just said. I think he's a guy that you don't mind the microphone and the social media buttons being in front of him when it's winning, but when you're losing, I think there's a side to him that's probably unappealing to the fan base. Mm-hmm.
And I'll say this, and I mean this as a compliment. It's going to come off as very passive aggressive and snarky, but I've never seen, this is for Ebron and his run blocking, I've never seen someone put in so much effort at something he's bad at. Like, Ebron is still not a good run blocker, but this guy tries. I mean, he is not taking plays off against the run, and so he's giving it his all in something that he's still pretty terrible at doing.
Right, and when he was signed, we said we worried about his run blocking. Now I'll be the first to admit, and I think I have several times, even just a couple of games into the season, I have been impressed with what he has done. Okay. Now that's not by no means am I vouching for him to go to the Pro Bowl as a run blocking tight end. I'm with you. I like the efforts there. Okay. I still get skittish when I see it because there's some ugly things on the All-22 when it comes to that. But on the flip side, if he's asked to block down inside, push basically, he's fine. I'm not going to stand him up, and it's foolish to expect him to base block a 4-3 defensive end, all right, because he's just going to get tossed to the side and all. So a little bit better than what I initially imagined, but let's not fool ourselves with what he is. He is what he is when it comes to that element of the game, and he'll probably tell you that. He probably does not look forward to plays that require him to block.
Probably, but he's given it his all. But there was a play against Jacksonville. It was a split zone concept, so he's pulling across to kick out the end man. I think it was a DB blitzing down, and he threw his whole body into him, and it didn't work. He bounced it off, but I mean, he tried, and so that's when the light came on and said, this guy's really trying hard at something he's not particularly good at. But you appreciate him doing those little things and trying to just get in the way enough to make it work, and so far it has. So Ben, all right, I'm gonna hand the microphone over to you. Eric Ebron style, and let you talk about Ben and his comments about the no huddle and making stuff up and yada 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 yada.
Yeah, well, I mean, read the quote if you will. All
right, let me pull it up here. Yeah, Ben was asked. I don't know exactly what the question was about. This is all in reference to the making stuff up and the no huddles type stuff that they've been running the last couple of weeks, the 0-1 personnel. And so Ben says, quote, "It's not like, I know we made a big deal about drawing stuff in the dirt, like just kind of joking, but obviously people made a big deal about it." Ben, you made a big deal about it, so I don't know why. He says, really, we are using parts of the no huddle in terms of routes, but they're not the big overall concept. I'll teach each guy a route, but it doesn't make sense in the grand scheme of a specific play. To me, when I made that comment, it was more, and I'll continue to make it, it was more of a compliment to them, referencing the receivers adjusting on the fly and the tight ends and the running backs and all that. So it's basically what we said whenever the comments came out, that it is still, the no huddle stuff and the calls are all still within the structure of the offense and what's taught. It's not literally made up on the fly. And so Ben is now trying to put that out there after kind of being the driver of the Sandlot football talk a couple weeks ago.
Oh, so in other words, we were right. Okay. Is that so? We've been right all along here, right?
Yeah. I guess, right.
I mean, so in other words, I mean, this isn't just snubbing your nose at the offensive coordinator here. In fact, I think in so many words, didn't he say that a lot of that stuff's just dummy stuff on a certain side, right?
Did he? Well, he says, yeah, he'll tell the guy a route, but it doesn't make sense in the grand scheme of a specific play.
Oh, wait. Read that again.
I'll tell each guy a route, but it doesn't make sense in the grand scheme of a specific play.
Oh, okay. All right. Gotcha. Look, don't act stupid if you listen to this show. All right. Don't try to understand stuff that and make things out of stuff that isn't there. This is easy to kind of see through all along. And look, Ben's always kind of you put a nail on it, right? He always kind of up talks things, right?
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying here. I'm just laughing at the fact, like, Ben's like, I don't know why they're playing it up. And I'm like, Ben, you were playing it up.
Right.
You're the one who was harping on this for like 3 straight weeks about how much everything was made up and you never ran these plays before. So, I mean, I get what he was saying and I get what he's saying now, but it just kind of made me laugh. Right.
And look, I mean, point the finger where you were. Look, Ben enjoys this kind of stuff. Let's face it, right?
Yeah, the mystique of it
right.
all.
And then he likes it making it look like, oh, the offensive coordinator don't mean one bit of damn thing here. I laugh so much at people writing these things that Randy Fichtner is the reason why the Steelers won't win a Super Bowl. I mean,
are they writing that?
Yeah, people are writing that now. I think Sports Illustrated even has something up on that. So it's foolish. Give me concrete reasons, not just a second down and long. Look, nobody likes second down and long runs, right? Nobody likes certain elements of a screen game, especially when it does not work. It's very results based here, but don't make it sound like this team really that bends the offensive coordinator. Look, I think Alex hit on this right from the get-go here is the best thing that you have right now with Ben Roethlisberger and Randy Fichtner is the two really seem to work good together. There's certain elements of this of an offense that Ben just does not like to run, period, right? RPOs, I think, being at the top of that. Second, where the hell is the damn play action at in this? The guy just see and nobody asked him about that, Alex. That's the first question I would ask this past week. You had success with play action. Why don't you like to run play action more? The last couple of years here. Here's the thing. Don't pretend to know more than what the team knows in certain situations here. And that goes to play calling, play design, who's calling the plays, yada, yada. Become more of a student of what's going on. And this is what Alex and I and Steelers Depot has been the goal of Steelers Depot right from the get-go. Try to understand what's going on and the reasons why, the who, why, how, what, and how much aspect of it'll make the game a lot more enjoyable instead of sitting around in a bar with your buddies saying, oh, running on second down and long, fire the offensive coordinator.
Right, and while that's frustrating, and I understand that, to put that into a metric, Hayden Winks has a neutral pass rate stat, which basically has the number of passes on first and second down, excluding blowouts and late in game when the game's over and stuff like that. So just pass rate when the game is competitive, and this is first and second down, and the Steelers are ranked, I think, tied for 7th in terms of the highest neutral pass rate. So the numbers suggest they're throwing the football plenty and not just run, passing it up.
Right, and what did read Ben's other quote there about people thinking that the team needs to maybe run the ball more.
Yeah, let me go ahead and pull that up because that was an article that Matthew Marksy wrote this morning, and obviously the focus is really just on scoring, getting points, finishing drives, regardless of just this black and white run pass balance type things. He says, quote, "No, I don't think it really matters how many times we throw or run the ball as long as we win the football game. We can beat the dead horse on the RPOs and the short passes the same as runs. We need to run the ball X amount of times. No, we don't. We need to win a football game. That's what we've been doing, and that is what they've been doing."
And then, you have the whole people refuse to accept what's called run game alternatives, what the Steelers do and all like that. So, look, here's the big test. I think this game, regardless of the people who might be sidelined for this game, injury wise or COVID wise or what have you, this is going to be a test for the Steelers offense in this game to find out. Probably the best test they've had since they last played the Ravens, to be quite honest with you. They should have probably had more a better run game, if you will, the last several weeks here against some of these teams. But I think this is going to be a real good test, regardless of who plays on the defensive side of the ball, for how they attack this Ravens defense.
Yeah, I mean,
does that make sense?
Sure, it's going to be a step up from the Jacksonvilles and Dallases and Bengals teams of the world. And, Wink Martindale, again, a great defensive coordinator. It's going to dial up a lot of pressure. And I think overall, Pittsburgh has done a good job handling pressure and picking up blitzes. And that's everybody. That's Ben. That's the line. That's the running backs. But the Ravens are going to be still a pretty difficult test, even knowing some of the guys that won't be available to them.
Right. All right. Anything else from what Ben had to say?
No, I think that was everything. So I assume that was everything that you wanted to discuss with Ben.
I find it amazing how people just try to read so much into some of these things. And look, are we right? Are you and I right about everything aspect of it? No, but it sure is fun to come back, circle back to some of these things when we are.
All right, Dave, before we talk about the Ravens game more in depth and start previewing that one, let's hear from our Ravens residential expert. That is Mr. John Eisenberg. You can follow him on Twitter at @BMoreEisenberg, writer for Ravens.com and author of great books, including The League and The Streak. So we'll take a quick pause, come back with John, and then return to the rest of the Terrible Podcast.
Okay, welcome back to the Terrible Podcast. It is Wednesday. It is the day before Thanksgiving, and the Steelers are still scheduled to play the Ravens right now. Thursday night at Heinz Field, part of a prime time, obviously the last of 3 Thanksgiving Day games, and then that means obviously we have a beat writer back on with us to talk about the upcoming game, and with it being the Baltimore Ravens, everybody knows what that means. Everybody's favorite, John Eisenberg. John, obviously, a columnist, covers the Baltimore Ravens for BaltimoreRavens.com, an esteemed author, latest book, author of The League, The Streak, and a bunch of other books on top of it. Great time to go out there and get that book, The League. I've got a copy of it. Alex has a copy of it. A great book for a football fan in general, and there's a little bit about the Steelers in there as well, too. Just an all-in-all great read. John's been on with us just too many times to count now, and we are pleased to have him on once again. John Eisenberg from BaltimoreRavens.com. John, happy Wednesday.
Well, happy Wednesday to you. That's a great. I don't know if I can top that introduction. That's awfully good. Thank you.
Look. You're a friend of the show and have been for years, obviously, and the League is such a great read, and just so coincides with your appearance. Coincides today with really the start of the shopping season, and with the whole COVID issue going on and people buying online more than ever. What a perfect gift for a football fan there. So people listening to this, make sure you support John and get a great gift on top of it. Go out there and go to Amazon right now and get the League. So with that, John, wow, what here we are, drama with Ravens Steelers week. It wouldn't be right to have a big meeting between these two teams, have some sort of extra storyline involved with it. And right now, obviously, it's the COVID situation here. The Ravens have already put a couple of guys on the COVID list there. They have another close contact player, I think, in Brandon Williams that's on there. Obviously, they're two starting running backs in J.K. Dobbins and Mark Ingram. I think this is going to lead to Gus Edwards getting a start here. But really, what's the overall? I mean, let's just go general here. What's the overall feeling about this game right now? And is there, people are asking, is this thing going to actually happen? I mean, I know we're going to get our answer to that probably by later today with some of these latest round of testing results. But, what's the overall feel on the Ravens side of thing when it comes to this game?
I think I think it is fluid. It is a fluid situation in terms of, whether the game will be played, whether it needs to be pushed back a few days. I don't know. I mean, it seems to change by the hour. When they originally started with just a couple of players testing, I didn't think that was going to be a problem. Then they added another player yesterday, and I don't know whether there could be more. And if there are, I mean, you definitely do reach a point where the league dealt with this earlier in the season with the Tennessee Titans and pushed, I know, a game with the Steelers back, I believe, wasn't it, or changed
right.
the date. And juggle the schedule. It's far from impossible that happens again. I mean, this could be one of those situations. It's just, I think, a question of what the league decides. The Thursday night is not helping here. The fact that it's happening almost immediately after a game that they played and forcing some very quick decisions. So I'm like everybody else out there. I'm sort of waiting to see what happens.
When you look at the totality right now of the players that at least we think, what's being reported out there, the Ravens are going to be without. And look, I mean, it's out there. It's J.K. Dobbins. It's Mark Ingram. It's Brandon Williams. We'll see what obviously, and you probably can't talk about the players individually, and we understand that. But Derek Wolfe, he showed up on the injury report yesterday with an illness. He's on Twitter kind of, I don't know, kind of a subtweet, I guess, if you will. But in totality of it and all, I mean, this one player does not decide Steelers Ravens, and really two players do not decide Steelers Ravens or any football game for that matter. When you look at what you think might be the list right now, how I guess what's the totality factor, I guess? What's the magnitude of the guys that we think that we know the Ravens will be without for this game? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, you're certainly looking at an impact of the running game with those names that you mentioned, but I mean, the Ravens, they do have a deep roster. They got Gus Edwards isn't on the list, and this guy's
run over the Steelers before, like week 17,
yeah.
And then people forget what he did just a couple of weeks ago in that game. But go ahead.
Yeah. So he's an excellent running back, and so they're okay there. Justice Hill is a guy. They really entered the season with 4 running backs. Justice Hill's a guy they like. There's just no room for him to play. But he does have some talent. This would be his opportunity, and he brings a lot of speed. And so running back, I don't think really a problem there. But they're certainly dealing with issues on the defense. And really, this is illnesses on top of injuries. I mean, every team has injuries. The Ravens have definitely had some this year. They had very few last year. It's caught up with them this year. I mean, they have Ronnie Stanley go out for the year as arguably, one of the best 2 or 3, if not the best left tackle in football. He's gone. And so that hurts. And, they've had a number of other injuries on the right side of the line. So, these illnesses are on top of that. And so it's just a lot of subtractions. And like, for instance, the defensive front, that would be another area where there'd be a question going into this game. Well, the big problem there is Calais Campbell has been out for a couple of weeks, and that's just an injury. That's not an illness. So these illnesses are on top of injuries like Campbell, a big loss. So they're just not stopping the run nearly as well without Calais Campbell and Brandon Williams. And the numbers are stark. When Brandon Williams is not in the game, they give up twice as many yards on the ground.
Yeah,
statistically. So that's a problem.
He's pouncy kryptonite sometimes when he's in the game there. All right, let's get to the elephant in the room here, and that being Lamar Jackson and what's happened with him this season and kind of his reaction off of that. It's always interesting to see these kids when they get into the NFL and they have the instant success and there's not a lot of negativity, or a lot of criticism on them overall because they're winning. And then when that player has a string a couple bad games and the media gets on them, it's interesting to see how they react and how they rebound from it. It's not just a Lamar Jackson situation. It happens and will continue to happen league-wide with both stars and non-stars alike there. Now, when you look at Lamar Jackson, obviously not the best season with him. He's talked a little bit of maybe backhanded kind of comments about the offensive coordinator and the play calling and predictability. I think he's out there liking and disliking things on social media, and I haven't seen that firsthand. It's just a question I was asked in an interview I gave yesterday on the radio there as well too. Where is Lamar Jackson's head right now? How kind of an overview. Where is his game at, and how is he handling this?
I don't think the Ravens are too worried about his attitude. I mean, it is whatever he's like. And I mean, Lamar, he is very young. He will say, and he's a very positive. I don't want to call him a kid. He's 23. But he'll say things. He'll go into interviews and he'll say, "Oh man, they wanted it more than us," or something like that, or felt like it. I think the Ravens generally sort of take that as a comment said, not exactly offhand, but they're not too worried about it. Whatever Lamar's feeling along those lines, that's fine. It doesn't impact him when he shows up to work and leads the team more and more. I mean, I think Lamar is fine. If anything, he's just frustrated because those things that you laid out. I mean, he's having a tougher time this year. And I've said all along, long before the season, the defensive coordinators in this league are good. They know what they're doing. They know a lot of football, and there was no doubt that a chess match was coming this year. And it's been interesting to watch it play out. Certainly just in terms of Lamar's running alone, these teams have sort of figured out how to do it. Spread the field diagonally and don't give him as many running lanes. Also, don't commit to him. Don't come up and try to tackle him, sort of rope-a-dope him, because if you come up to him, he's around you and he's gone. So if you don't do that, so they're playing him a lot smarter. And in terms of passing, which is really the scrutiny this year, they figured out he's just not throwing the ball outside the hash marks. He wasn't doing it last year. So this year they're flooding the middle of the field, and teams are getting away with it because he just is not throwing the ball outside the hash marks. And so you give NFL teams some information like that, defenses, they're going to go to town with it. So what really needs to happen is the next step in his evolution. He has to develop some level of trust with his receivers and throw that ball outside the hash marks and give them chances to make plays. And he is just hesitant to do it, it seems to me. And, it's costing him. So it's a combination of things along those lines. He's just not getting to the edges. He's become somewhat predictable in his passing. And so that it's a chess match. The Ravens have to adjust. Lamar has to adjust. And right now, it's not happening enough. So that's what we're seeing.
As you mentioned, John, injuries are certainly impacting this offense as well. How has this team dealt with two of the bigger injuries they've had on offense? Ronnie Stanley going down in that Steelers game. I know Orlando Brown has flipped over to left tackle, and then also Nick Boyle, which I think is an injury not many people are talking about. And Boyle is one of the best blocking tight ends in football for a rushing attack that is potentially so potent as Baltimore's. How have they replaced Boyle to lose that tight end run blocking?
Well, that's a great question because when Stanley went down, 2 days after he signs a huge extension, by the way, Stanley goes down. Everybody goes, oh, gosh, that's awful. Great left tackle, all-pro left tackle, certainly on any team is a devastating injury. But they do have Orlando Brown, who has been a good, was a left tackle at Oklahoma. They switched into the right tackle. He's a third-round pick because of a bad combine. And he's been a good NFL tackle, and he's holding up pretty well at left tackle. they were lucky that they were able to sort of move beyond that injury with a guy as good as Orlando Brown. It's opened some holes in the rest of the line, but they're okay with that. The Nick Boyle injury was the one where anybody that knows the Ravens says, uh-oh, when Nick Boyle goes down, because the whole running game, this whole thing that they're doing was like running through Nick Boyle. He was the lead dog, the point of attack guy. They just it all ran through him. They would, set him in motion or put him in place and then point him in a direction, and he's just an animal. And so they're definitely missing that. I mean, they have an excellent receiving tight end, Mark Andrews, really, really good, Lamar's favorite target, and still playing really well. And he's a better blocker this year. But, they had to go out and get a veteran guy, Luke Wilson.
I am a Luke Wilson stan, if you will.
The only one.
I might be the only one. I've always thought he's kind of, now look, he's not going to the Pro Bowl or anything like that, but he is what he is, and I like what he is. And I thought the Steelers, when they just went through this kind of tight end situation, that they should have looked at him maybe. And look, they got him on the cheap too on top of it, But go ahead, talk more about Luke Wilson.
Yeah. Well, it was a good pickup, and so one game he played against the Titans on Sunday. He did well. I mean, I agree with you. He is what he is, and that's what the Ravens. Nick Boyle was not a big pass-catching guy either. Mm-hmm. They just need a guy to go out there and block, and so maybe it'll be okay. We'll see in the long run. But Nick Boyle was a huge loss for this team, and so that's the one that causes you to look in the mirror and go, what are we exactly here going forward without him? I mean, and certainly on top of the Stanley injury, just in terms of if you want to be a running team, you want good blockers. Well, there's probably your two best down. And then with Yonda retired, that's your three best from last year. So it does add up.
Yeah, I think Boyle and Patrick are two of the more underrated players on this team. I want to switch to the receiving core. And I know what's going to happen on Thursday. I can already envision it, John, where Willie Snead's going to have a big third down reception or touchdown. He always seems to be a thorn in the Steelers side. And he's been playing well the last month. He's gotten more involved in the offense. What makes him just such an effective slot receiver and a guy that always seems to make the big play at the right time?
Well, Willie brings to the table a lot of things. He's smart, he's experienced, and, those are two big things. And he's tough. Those are three things: smart, experienced, and tough. You can do a lot in the NFL at any position. And he's that receiver. He's not the fastest guy, but, not a slow guy either. And he knows how to get open, and he'll catch the ball. His catch to targets is really, really strong. Just a good, solid player. I mean, AFC North kind of receiver. And so they're lucky to have him. I mean, they're having issues with some of their younger receivers not developing, and so that's an opening for Willie, and a good solid player right there.
One receiver the Steelers may see tomorrow, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't know where his status is at that they didn't see in the first matchup, was Des Bryant, who had 4 catches in last week's game against Tennessee. Is he going to be elevated to the 53? I think he's out of elevations, but could he be signed? And how has he looked in the 2 games he's appeared with the Ravens?
He has one more elevation, I think. Okay. Because the one of them, and believe me, I'm losing track of this stuff, but I believe it was a COVID-19 elevation, which doesn't count against your total of 2. So he had one of them in there that was that. So I think he has one more. So I would expect to see him. They rolled him out there suddenly a lot against the Titans, and especially in the second half. Lamar seems to like to throw to him. They were playing way off of him, and so there were just a couple catch and runs. He did have one nice 15-yard catch. He looks like he has a little bit of gas left in the tank, and with them struggling to get more out of their wideouts, I mean, I think this is the guy. You're going to see him a little bit. I don't know whether he's a big play monster anymore, but he does know what he's doing. He's looked good in practice, and I do think you'll see him.
John, when you look back at that last game between these two teams, obviously came down to the last couple of plays there, and why wouldn't it? When it comes to this series and all. But I think one of the big and look, the Steelers went 0-1 personnel. They spread them out in the second half after not having any success in the first half, and boy, they the offense got on fire, was able to move the football, yada yada. That's all been written about. We've talked about it. That's what's being talked about kind of right now. But I think one of the dynamics, or a few dynamics, that people forget about when they look at this game, and Joe fan will look at it and say, okay, Calais Campbell, Brandon Williams, the defense will be without those guys and all like that, and the Steelers offense should move in that 0-1 personnel again. But here's the dynamic I think people are forgetting here. Matthew Judon was, I think, escorted out of that game a little early in the first one. That made a little bit of difference in this game. And the Ravens also had to play Terrell Bonds probably a lot more than they wanted to play him in that game too. And I don't even think Terrell Bonds is on the 53-man roster as we talk right now. I think they've got a different number 4 cornerback that's a lot better this time around as well too. On a and obviously the Ravens are cognizant of what happened last time when Ben spread them out there and all. Are the Steelers going to have to find a different way this time when it comes to moving the football?
Well, probably. I mean, I think they probably will be ready for that spread personnel and alignments. And it's interesting because these last couple of games that have been tough for the Ravens, and I'm not including the Pittsburgh game, talking about New England and Tennessee, the Ravens have been run on. And so that's where they're weakest right now with the players that are out. The secondary is still pretty good. And of course, they went out and got Yannick Ngakoue, trying to up the pass rush. But the pass rush has not really been in play a whole lot against these running teams. They just run the ball down the Ravens' throats, which is hard to imagine. But when the Ravens are a little short-handed there, it's the right thing to do. And so, I don't know. The Steelers didn't have a lot of luck on the ground in that game. Whether they can follow the suit of these last couple teams with Connor and run the ball better, I'm sure they'll explore that. That seems to be where the Ravens are weakest right now. The secondary is still pretty strong, and so they did have some success spreading the ball, and I think Ben's just been masterful lately the way he's been operating these things, and he looks great to me. He's throwing beautiful balls all over the field, and so maybe he can exploit it. We'll see, but the way to beat the Ravens right now, other teams have been doing it, is running the ball. So it wouldn't surprise me to see if they give that a shot, because they're short-handed there, and they've been pushed around a little bit. So I don't know. They'll come out fired up. Don Martindale, he moves it's a lot of different alignments, a lot of different blitz packages, a lot of stuff. And it's usually not just one thing, these last couple of games being an exception, but it's usually not just one thing that you use to beat the Ravens defense. So I'm interested to see how they do it. I don't think the passing game alone will do it. So they need to run the ball a little, and they might be able to.
You mentioned Yannick Ngakoue. I think there was some rumblings about maybe why wasn't he on the field, I think, in overtime against the Titans and all. What's kind of been the overall feel since his addition there? I get the sense that they're not getting out of him what they thought they could get out of him.
Yeah, to some degree, certainly not in terms of actual production. I'm talking stat lines. And he's not been on they're using him strictly as a situational pass rusher. I think 22 snaps against the Titans, which is not enough. So if you watch him, he's pretty good at it. He gives them what they haven't had. Is a guy that can win a one-on-one battle. He's a ton of speed. He's good at getting to the quarterback and making things interesting. He did have a sack against the Titans. But they've been playing these teams these last couple of weeks that are tons of play action and get rid of the ball pretty quickly, and they're mainly running the ball, like I said. So that's not his style of game. Pittsburgh will be a little bit more of that. Ben's going to throw the ball more. I'll be interested to see whether he has more of an impact in that game because, Ben is a passing quarterback. And so you're going to see a little bit more of a traditional he is getting rid of the ball a lot quicker, though, than he has in years past. So, I don't know. It's just not, these offenses are pretty good. They're pretty good at avoiding that pass rush that the Ravens bring with those blitzes and different things. So, he's still, if you watch him on those 22 snaps, he's pretty good at disrupting things. But, it's just they've been run on more than anything these last few weeks, and that's not his game.
I had mentioned offensive thorn in the Steelers sides being Willie Snead. For the defense, I've always felt like that's been Anthony Levine. And he's always been that sub-package guy, third down blitzer, guy that's always kind of seemed to make plays against Pittsburgh. I know he hasn't played much this season. I know he's 33 years old. They've brought younger talent in. But is there any way that he may see the field more this week? And just why hasn't he played much this season?
Well, he hasn't played much. They've invested a ton in, they're getting good safety play. They're pretty happy with what they're getting. They've got these young inside linebackers. Levine was playing some linebacker last year on third down. And he's fairly effective and smart player, older player. But they just, those are positions where I think they're looking for a little more speed. Sometimes than he was giving him. He's definitely a smart player, but he's just been sort of layered over this year. He's really their special teams. He's the captain of the special teams here, and has been for a while, and that is his primary role. The defense definitely has waned, but they're getting nice play out of their safeties. Chuck Clark and Deshaun Elliott. Elliott's been a nice surprise. Replacing Earl Thomas, really, they have no problems replacing Earl Thomas. They're younger players, and occasionally something goes wrong, but generally they're pretty good there, and they're both low-round draft picks, so an interesting story there. But, it's just tough for Anthony. They got a lot of players back there in that secondary, and it's tough for him to get on the field.
I know fan bases can be very fickle, especially as teams are losing the way that Baltimore's struggled as of late. But how are fans just reacting to John Harbaugh? Did they like the in-your-face midfield stuff he had with Vrabel last week and all that, whatever you want to call it?
Oh,
or
yeah.
Is that kind of a shtick that might be wearing thin?
I don't think it's wearing thin.
Okay.
I think, the fan base here probably loves that stuff. They're what I read online, and you can take it all with a grain of salt, but it's like that, they seem to be more mad at the players. And they're certainly offensive coordinator, Greg Roman, always gets, anytime you start
that
losing.
sounds like a fan base.
They want Randy Fichtner fired in Pittsburgh and have, the undefeated team, and all they can talk about is fire Randy Fichtner right now.
Right. So the offense, really take that with anything with the offensive coordinator. Greg Roman, had the greatest rushing attack in the history of the league last year. And,
right.
When things don't go quite as well, it's like, oh, he's got to, put him on a stake and get him out of here. So, it's kind of funny. But the fan base, of course, frustrated, disappointed. It's kind of funny. The Ravens, the frustrated and disappointed, they've blown leads in these games. They're 6-4, which certainly no one expected. They had a big lead, halftime lead on the Steelers, let that game get away. Had an 11-point lead in the third quarter against the Titans, let that game get away. So it's not like are there issues? For sure. But a loss to go up to New England and lose to not a very good New England team, it's absolutely a monsoon, which probably was not the best thing for them. So I think you're looking at a team, that definitely has some issues, but it's not like they're getting blown out in these games. These games are close, and they're competitive. So they need to stop hurting themselves, which is what they've been doing. Certainly that Pittsburgh game. With Lamar, with all those turnovers, and he's not been terribly turnover prone in his career, but Pittsburgh's had his number on that. Stop committing turnovers, and they've been much more penalty prone in the last month or 6 weeks than they have been at any time since Lamar became the quarterback. That's hurting him game after game. then you get into a thing where just weird stuff's going on, like the center can't snap the ball.
Right.
So, it's one thing after the other. And so a lot of it is sort of self-inflicted. So if they can stop hurting themselves, these games are close as it is. I don't see them swirling down the drain is what I'm saying. I mean, it's still, I don't know about all this COVID stuff, but, they're close and competitive in these games and not even bringing their A game. So there's something there, that's for sure.
So safe to say that John is more popular in Baltimore than Jim is in Michigan right now. Is that a fair assessment?
Oh, well, I think Jim in Michigan is a big problem. So I think I'll be seeing him hanging around the Ravens locker room. he starts showing up. Actually, of course I won't because nobody's allowed in the locker room. But he usually comes around. But tough year for the Harbaughs.
John, what's your and look, you don't have much to go on a short week here, and they obviously haven't even practiced yet. We'll see what's going to happen with the Ravens on Wednesday and all like that. But Calais Campbell, is he? What's your gut feeling? Is he going to go this week? And then also, I know you can't really talk about it because really nobody knows. I know Derek Wolfe showed up on the injury report as an illness, and there's a lot of speculation that he might be a guy that ends up going on COVID. If Derek Wolfe can't play for whatever reason, how big a loss is that?
Big, huge, because this is where they're suffering, is the defensive front. Campbell, my gut instinct says no, he will not play. I think he'll be back after this game. They've got
Dallas
11 days off. Yeah, Thursday night. Well, they play Dallas a week. That is a better chance. And then they're off 11 days, and they play Browns on Monday Night Football. It's just not the 4 days is really hurting Campbell's chances here. He did go up and down the field in pregame warm-ups, so I think 4 days is going to be tough for him. I think he's a no. And as a result, Derek Wolfe is totally key. He had a huge game, was just outstanding against the Titans, all over the field. And so that would be a big loss. They're just running out of defensive linemen. That's your whole defensive line there that would be out. Campbell, Williams, and Wolfe. That's it. You're down to your reserves playing entirely. So that's why teams are running on them and having so much success.
All right. Regardless of what happens on Thursday night here, is this, and assuming this team just doesn't get hit over and over again by this COVID thing and all like that, is this Ravens team a playoff team, John? And what is? This is a big game, obviously, for the Ravens. If they lose this, they cannot win the AFC North, So this is really kind of a bigger game for them, I would think, than it is for the Steelers here. So what is this Ravens team? Is this Ravens team a playoff? And just speak on the magnitude of this game before we get your prediction.
Well, the AFC North, I think the ship has sailed on that. The question is it a playoff team? I think it is, for the reasons I mentioned earlier. It's not like they're just collapsing. Of course, it's such a strange year for them, and the injuries do take a toll, and this COVID stuff. You never know when the weight just becomes too much, and it's more than you can bear. At this point, I would say it is not more than they can bear. They have not performed well at the toughest part of their schedule. The schedule gets a lot easier in December, and they're going to win some games. Absent that, as long as there's no just collapse, as I mentioned, they're going to win some games. They're going to get to double-digit wins. That's my prediction. They got, the Jaguars at home, the Giants at home, the Cowboys. Cowboys are playing a little better, but these are very winnable games. The Bengals without Burrow, so. It's a pretty easy schedule down the stretch for them. So I think they're going to win some games and probably have a playoff worthy record. So, but without a doubt, a win over Pittsburgh they need. At some point you do have to win those games. They've been stuck on 6. And so it's a huge game for them without a doubt. If they were to come out of Pittsburgh with a win, certainly would calm everybody down and make it, to me, they win this game, it's like, yeah, pretty sure you're a playoff team. if you don't win this game, then you're going to be in for a fight. You're still in it, without question. But these other teams are winning some, and you're going to be in for a fight.
All right, so with that, it's that time again. We'll put the imaginary drum roll sound effect in here and all like that. I mean, look, this seems like a David versus Goliath situation right now, them having to come to Pittsburgh, play an undefeated Steelers team, got all the COVID issues going on, going to be down several players here, but this is still Steelers-Ravens. I mean, it boils down to that short week and all. What's going to happen Thursday night, John, assuming the game gets played, obviously?
Yeah, I mean, how many times have you seen this scenario? The Steelers. I mean, you guys tell me the Steelers. They've played some good football. I mean, the 10-0 is great. I mean, I think they're. I see him playing, and I think Ben looks really good. I think it's I don't know how they won that Dallas game, and the one here, the Ravens certainly feel was somewhat of a giveaway.
Right.
So, I don't know. I think they're probably due. I think Steelers are due. I don't know. And it's the old, I once had years ago covered an old, an NBA team, and Dick Motta was the coach, the old Hall of Fame coach. And he always referred to it as the wounded tiger theory. and that is when everything's going against you, everything is going against you, you can usually rise up and win a game. He says it's very, very dangerous in professional sports because these teams are good and they know what they're doing. And so I don't know. I kind of smell it. I kind of smell it, and I'm in the minority for sure. Everything favors the Steelers in this game. With reason. But for some reason, I don't know. I feel like it's set up to one of those reverse lock wounded tiger games. So something tells me the Ravens got a real shot there.
All right, score prediction real quick.
Score prediction. Okay. How about 28-27?
Okay, fair enough. I think it's going to be one of those classic Steelers-Ravens games that come down to a field goal either side here. I really do as well, too. John, look, as always, day before Thanksgiving, we appreciate you clearing some time for us. And tell the people what they will find when they buy and read The League.
The League, I appreciate your kind words, and yes, it's my book on it's a creation story of the NFL, the early days of the league when the league was not popular, not doing well. How did they make it through those times and set themselves up to succeed later? And I focus on the five owners who basically were the nucleus of the league and shepherded it through those years, coming up with ideas like the draft and how to make pro football a success. And Art Rooney Sr. is one of those five owners, so there's lots of Steelers stuff in there, and I just loved digging into that history and finding out Rooney's role, not just running the Steelers, but really his role within the framework of the league, which really is the reason why he went in the Hall of Fame right as soon as that thing opened. He was a real giant figure in the league. So that's the book, and tons of Steelers stuff in there. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Fantastic book. So get on there, get that book, get on the Twitter machine at @BMoreEisenberg. John's also got a website with links to some of his stuff there, johneisenberg.com. So there's no reason for you not to be able to find him on the interwebs. So with that, John, happy Thanksgiving, happy Ravens week, happy everything. Stay safe there in Baltimore. And who knows, maybe Alex and I will do this with you one more time before the 2020 season is over with. We appreciate your time, John, as always.
Thank you, John.
My pleasure. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody.
And welcome back to the Terrible Podcast. And as always, our big thanks to John Eisenberg, great friend of the show. I know it's a busy time for him with the game and Thanksgiving and whatever else he has going on in life right now, but really appreciate his time and his insight. Absolutely.
One of our favorite guests of all time and will continue to be.
Yeah, be sure to shout him out. I know we are both very thankful for having John on the show here the day before Thanksgiving. All right, Dave, do you want to do a quick overview of the Jags game, what you saw in the old 22, or do you kind of want to skip ahead to the Ravens preview?
Whatever you want to do here. I'm open to going either way here. You've probably had more of a chance to dive a little deeper in it on a short week than I have.
Yeah, I mean, there was really nothing that was dramatically different than my first, watch through of the game. It was a pretty, so to speak, cut and dry kind of game. The offense got going. The defense created a lot of pressure. I thought the defensive line continually won up front. The secondary, I thought, played really well. Joe Hayden had a good game. Obviously, what Minka and Terrell Edmonds did is obvious and evident on the box score. So nothing too major there. Just wanted to get your thoughts if you had anything that really you came across a surprise you one way or the other rewatching this thing.
I like the way they mixed up some coverages on the back end there. We saw some inverted cover 3, right?
On Edmonds' second interception.
Right, on Edmonds' second interception. I like the way they tried to disguise some stuff a little bit in there. I like the fact that they attacked, tried with pressure right from the get-go there. Offensively, still felt, obviously, you look at that in two different ways when it comes to the running game. You like to see the explosive plays, which I'm gonna have to do some research on 15-yard versus 20-yard runs and all like that, whether or not they should be considered explosive or not. But look, you had two 17-yard runs by James Conner. You had a 25-yard run by James Conner. Now those weren't weren't orthodox, right? They were more effort than they were scheme and execution, right? So I think you got to dive into the it was success but aspect of it. But that's why you play the game. You have players that can make plays for you like that. I thought the passing game was just fantastic, especially once Ben got started. That throw to James Washington. The more angles that you look at it over there to the left side, the more impressive that throw actually becomes. And it was impressive on the TV tape overall. But that throw, along with the couple of the outs to Chase Claypool, that shows confidence there. All right, so when you have a quarterback kind of on a timing route, if you will, that's the kind of stuff that Antonio Brown used to be a security blanket for Ben on those outs. And the fact that Chase Claypool is becoming that guy 10 games into his NFL career is absolutely fantastic. The other aspect of it is, of course, and we've mentioned this several times, Ben, the last couple games, is pushing the football down the field more. And in fact, I think ESPN must listen to their terrible podcast. They absolutely have to, because they're already focusing in on some of these metrics that you and I have talked about, the intended air yards versus the completed air yards. Now, I will caution people once again, when you get into these advanced analytics and you're not putting them in proper perspective or wrapping the right narrative around them, they can look one way and not be another way. All right. The main takeaway, I think, when it comes to Ben the last couple games is he is pushing the football down the field more. However, there is the gap that you would like to see closed between the intended air yards and the completed air yards, and that's quite a gap right now. Still. Let me throw something else into this, and I wrote about this past week, and thanks to our great stat guru edition in Brad, was able to spit out the numbers on this. Look, you got a lot of hidden yardage right now with a guy like Chase Claypool. Not only is he tied for the league lead in pass interference penalties drawn, his 135 yards? I don't have it in front of me. I think it's
around there.
135 yards in drawn pass interference penalties also leads the league. Now, Mike Evans, there's two quarterbacks right at the top of the league right now when it comes to drawing these penalties. One's Ben Roethlisberger, the other one's Tom Brady. All right, they have two receivers in Mike Evans and
was it Godwin?
No, not Godwin. The other one.
In Tampa Bay?
Yeah, Tampa Bay.
Scotty Miller?
Yeah, Scotty Miller.
Really? He's up there.
Yeah, he's up there. And he has 4, and it's really the yardage that's the most attractive thing with him because he's had a couple way on down the field, 50-yarders, I think, there. Mike Evans and Scotty Miller combined help put Tom Brady over the top there. So you have a quarterback in Tom Brady able to I wouldn't able to say that that's a skill set. I would do you put it more on a receiver being able to draw it than a quarterback?
Yeah, Yeah, it's
or
hard to
or
really
yes.
dial that down. It's kind of a combination of everything. Sometimes the quarterback, maybe the throw is bad, and maybe the DB is bad. I mean, it's kind of all parties involved there. But it's hard. Yeah, it's hard for me to dial that one down.
I mean, is this have we created a new stat here? The Flacco?
I was just gonna say, yeah, Flacco was the king of that. I bet you he's the all-time leader in that stat.
I mean, is there anything to be ashamed of, though? I mean,
no, not if you're the offense. You don't
Right.
care how you move down the field, as long as you move down the field.
I guess what I'm getting at here too is how much should these no plays, and that's what they are, they don't count in the stats here. How much does that need to be factored into not only intended air yards but completed air yards?
Yeah, it probably needs to be in the conversation. So I'm glad that you're introducing it and we're putting the numbers to it. But obviously, those aren't things that are sustainable or things you can expect, and they're not something clearly that you build an offense around. And I know everybody understands that.
Right. And long story short is, I think when it comes to Ben's passing game right now, the only bit of things that I would point to is still that you would like to see the completed air yard distance get closer to the intended air yard distance. That's it. That's the story. Thanks for coming. That's really the only criticism I think you could come up with right now about the Steelers passing game overall.
Yeah, I think that's fair, and why I think Ben's deep ball hasn't looked as sharp as years past. The arm strength is still impressive. Again, as you mentioned, just the next time you see someone tweet or say that Ben has no arm and his arm sucks and all that type of stuff, just put on goal 22 with that throw to James Washington. That is a far hash throw with pressure that's in the bucket to Washington over the cornerback playing tight man coverage. That is just an elite level throw that if you don't have a good arm and a live arm, you're just simply not going to be able to make that. So I think the far side out route is the one throw that can really tell you how good of an arm a quarterback has. And for Ben, that was a perfect pass.
And I think a synopsis too of Ben with trusting the wide receivers, which Ben made a point. One thing that we kind of glossed over that I think we probably should have paid more attention to was Ben's quotes about him trusting. And really, I think long story short, I think that was the point he was trying to make in the whole we don't draw the plays up in the sand clarification that's kind of gotten legs of its own. I don't know how you wrap that up into a description, but in so many words, he trusts his wide receivers to do certain things, and I think a play that best encapsulates that would be maybe a sideline throw to a Chase Claypool, or the back shoulder throw to Deontay in that game against the Jaguars. So there's nothing not to like about the Steelers passing game other than a metric, I guess, if you will. Should he have made the throw into the end zone, extended the play against Jacksonville that came up with the interception? You can always judge that on a pass fail because of the result factor. If he somehow gets that to the wide receiver, it's almost like the throw to Deontay Johnson against Denver, right? That ball was off the mark. If that ball's intercepted, that's not a Ben being Ben play. In the same light, Ben getting intercepted in the end zone against Jacksonville becomes Ben versus a Ben being Ben play, right? So,
right. Or like the Juju against Tennessee down the middle that got picked.
Correct. Exactly there. Look, there's just certain aspects of the quarterback that fall into the area of that. Look, it's and the one not only against Tennessee, the one a couple weeks ago in the game against Cincinnati there, where we talked about it, we broke it down. He forewent the hot of Deontay over the middle, all right, and then he makes a throw in the back of the end zone to Juju. It's one of those. Oh no! Oh, good job, Ben. You know, that's just who your quarterback is, and you got to live with the ups and downs that come with that. So, all right, I don't know how to better wrap that up. There's nothing wrong with the passing game. It's the running game. Obviously, you'd like to see a little bit better. This goes back to Ben's comments, and we might throw 70% of this game, yada yada. I think it now comes into what's going to happen in this game, and I think the truest test of where the passing game is, and maybe for the rest of the season and potentially moving forward, is what happens Thursday night against this Ravens defense. Because I am not convinced, hopefully, maybe I'll be proven wrong, that you just go 0-1 in this one and try to have a repeat performance. I don't know. Somehow I went down the rabbit hole and came out the other side here because we were talking about Jacksonville tape here. Dig the trench here.
Well, just a quick note for the defensive notes, and just a very short one. Despite Mike Hilton's return in the Jacksonville game, Cam Sutton still played a lot. Actually played more than Mike Hilton. Now, maybe that's partially them easing Hilton back into it and conditioning-related stuff, but they were finding ways to get Sutton involved, whether that was some snaps. I think about 13 of them, actually, where Sutton was playing in traditional nickel over Mike Hilton. We'll see if that continues and remains.
Did you like it? Did you like the decision?
Yeah, I don't mind it, considering how well Cam Sutton has played. Again, maybe that changes a little bit week by week as Hilton kind of gets back into the swing of things. But I like that they were finding ways to get him involved, and sometimes their base personnel, where they were subbing out Terrell Edmonds for Cam Sutton against 11 personnel. That's a great way to answer the question of how do we still stop the run but also play pass coverage against 11 personnel. And that's something that's not brand new for this defense this year, but I like that element of it. So just clearly still finding ways to get Sutton involved in the defense despite Hilton's return that would on paper reduce Sutton's role.
Okay.
All right, Dave, let's talk about the Ravens game. As you mentioned, to answer your question about, what is the approach offensively in this game, I hear what you're saying about you can't just rely on 0-1 personnel and expect to have the same magic that was created in the second half of the previous matchup, but you're trying to find out ways to slow down that Ravens blitz scheme and pass rush. And Wink Martindale, again, a great DC that really does a good job to disguise blitzes and confuse offenses and create a lot of chaos. And if you can spread things out that limits their ability to blitz, which it did in the second half of that game, you lean on that. So maybe it's not as much on-the-fly type stuff as it is game planned already into the system, but you got to find a way to solve the Ravens blitz, because that's the thing that creates chaos that can really force your offense into mistakes.
Now, there's going to be two train of thoughts, I think, of how to approach this game offensively for the Steelers. It's going to be, look at how let's assume Calais Campbell doesn't play. All right, Brandon Williams is not going to play. If they don't have Derek Wolfe, I mean, you're already talking about a huge hit on that defensive line. If they don't have Derek Wolfe for this game, on top of it, I mean. And look, Patrick Queen, I think, has been phenomenal, but there's been some run fits that Judon can only cover up so much, right? Of this. So I think there's some train of thought that says, man, strap it up, man. Throw the 12 personnel out there and see if you can't. The best way to maybe beat Lamar Jackson is don't let Lamar Jackson on the field. Or the other train of thought's going to be, man, we'll just spread these guys out. Let Ben read it. Draw the plays up in the sand, and let's get 14 points on the board before Lamar Jackson even blinks.
Yeah, I'm cool with that latter plan. I'm fine with just putting up points. But again, obviously, you need to run the ball effectively when you call upon it, and you should have a better time without Brandon Williams and potentially without Derek Wolfe. And so you got to have more success situationally on the ground this time around.
What is your opening script look like, Alex, for this?
I'm more of the mindset, if you made me choose, of spreading things out, because I think that is the most efficient thing for the Steelers offense in general this year. And I think it's probably the best way to force the Ravens to play more conservatively. So I'm not saying you have to abandon the run, and I want them to run the football, and they need to run it more effectively. But I'm okay with kind of spreading things out, because you trust your best players, and your best players are when Ben is throwing to the full complement of weapons that he has. And it does not mean necessarily 0-1 personnel, but I want to do things that force the Ravens to play more conservatively.
All right, or 10 personnel, right? I mean, but you pulling Ebron off, which to me, I mean, what personnel grouping do you'd rather have the 0-1 out there if you're going to spread them out, right?
as opposed to 10.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it can go either way. But usually when you go 0-1, you're forcing the Ravens to not blitz, and so you're not worried about needing the back end for protection. But even if it's 11 personnel and you want to go empty out of that and just do stuff like that, like I'm cool with that as well.
You know what? God bless him. You're not going to be tempted to do anything with Jalen Samuels in this game.
Well, he's probably not going to play, but no, I'm not tempted to do anything with Jalen Samuels.
Right, at least that temptation won't be there, right? In other
Are you
words,
referencing a Wildcat?
What else did they do in that game early in the first half? Remember the first game against the Ravens? Didn't they run Jalen on a 3rd and short or something?
Oh yeah, right. Tried to block that one out.
See, I got a memory of a damn elephant, you know.
Yeah, blessing and a curse.
Yeah, and how many? And didn't they try to use Jalen? Didn't they try to use Jalen in that game to spread him out? Didn't he have a drop in that game?
Yeah, he did on like the 2nd down or 3rd down, a little crossing route. Yeah, no, do not play Jalen.
So look, the best thing that could probably happen pre-game is Jalen Samuels is on the inactive list. All right, in this, I'll get back to this again. What is the temptation to come out? Let's assume I am right here. It's not a stretch.
Okay, way to pat yourself on the back.
And McDonald does not suit up for this game. All right. Okay. What is still the temptation to come out here and run some 12 personnel right out of shoot here and run football?
Well, I wouldn't have a particular appetite for it, but I think the principle will be just needing to come out, be physical, to do a better job at the point of attack that they didn't do in the first matchup. And again, knowing that they're without some of their defensive linemen, or at least presumably so, I mean, you should have more success running the football. But we said that about the Bengals and the Cowboys, and it didn't work out.
How much does this the short week play into the game planning and the script of what you might want to do versus what we might see on the field? Does that make sense?
I think it's sure. I think it's what Keith Butler said, is that you really you can't change too much. You're on a short week and you're just going out there and you're doing what you do well and you're playing your best guys, and that has to be the approach. So I know that, obviously Pittsburgh has an advantage because they're not dealing with the COVID stuff that Baltimore is right now, and they're able to practice, but practice doesn't really matter a whole lot this week, it doesn't feel like, because it's a short week. You're not adding stuff new. You're just trying to get healthy and get guys available for this game. So I think really you just have to do your best. They do their best, and whoever does that better is going to win this game.
I'm interested to see how they open up, because to me it's a lose-lose proposition here with not much win side, just from a fan perspective only. Not that means a whole hell of a lot. If they come out spread, people are going to say, and here's my biggest aspect, and this is what I brought up to John in our interview there, was, look, you had Matthew Judon out of that game early, right?
Sure.
The first one, and that was a big component to that game, I thought. One that's probably not talked enough about. The other was you had that fourth cornerback. You were able to get that fourth cornerback on the field, and remind me who their fourth corner is now. And they're a lot healthier in the secondary, I think, this time around than they were the last time. Correct?
Yeah, I don't know who the fourth corner is. You obviously have Jimmy Smith.
Who is their fourth one right now?
I mean, they got a really good top three: Humphrey, Peters, Jimmy Smith. I don't know how the rest of the depth chart looks.
I thought I looked at that last night there. Trey.
Yeah.
Trayvon Williams.
Okay. Oh yeah, the Packers guy.
Right.
They signed him a couple weeks ago. He's like 37, dude, still killing it.
Right. But I mean, he's an upgrade over the kid that they had in there that last time, right? By far.
I would assume
didn't they attack the living? Correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't they attack the bejesus out of
I don't know if they went after
Queen and him.
I can't remember them going
Terrell
after
Bonds.
Okay, I defer to you because I think everything's blended together for me. But I just know they spread them out. Baltimore couldn't blitz, and Ben just picked them apart.
Okay, I viewed it more as them going after a little bit more after Bonds and singling up a linebacker there. But anyway, I think you got to be careful there in doing that. To me, I would like to see more of a mix. I do think I want to come out initially and spread them out because I want to see how they react.
Well, I think I know how they'll react. I think
Okay.
they're going to have to play because they can't blitz against those looks. Or if they do, then you got one-on-ones or guys running free.
Regardless, I think you got to jump. This is still a dangerous Ravens team all the way around, defensive side of football. Even without Calais Campbell, even without Brandon Williams, even without Derek Wolfe. This is still, as long as that secondary and linebacker core is there, there's a reason to be concerned, I think, about the defense.
Sure, and schematically, they're still very sound,
Right.
and that's always challenging. Jacksonville, for example, does not have a ton of talent, but they had a good scheme, and that slowed Pittsburgh up early in that game. Defensively, though, I think for the Steelers defense is an interesting question of how do you attack Lamar? Do you keep doing the same old, the mesh charge? That's what Keith Butler seemed to imply, or do you do something different given the fact that did not work in the first matchup and you gave up 265 on the ground?
Or did it work? I mean, when it comes to Lamar, did it work when it comes to Lamar and Lamar only?
Yeah, it stopped Lamar, but the consequence was, you won the battle, but you lost the war. Where you stop Lamar, but they still run for 265 on you.
Right. We saw some aspects. Even are we allowed to admit when T.J. Watt makes a mistake, or no? Or is that not allowed?
Yeah, there were times where he was probably too aggressive, and he was, he was an edge contained guy, and he was spiking down and didn't make the play, and that cost him.
Do you fear Gus Edwards beating you on the edge?
No, not in particular. Obviously, J.K. Dobbins would have been the perimeter threat like he had on that one play where he beat Spillane to the sideline. But just the worry is schematically, if they create a lot of even box counts or if they're +1, it doesn't really matter who the back is because any back's going to win in those situations more times than not.
All right, we talk about who the Ravens might be without or who they were without the last time, especially on the defensive side of the ball there. You only had Tyson Alualu for like 6 plays in the first game.
Right, and he got hurt like on the first play.
Right. Right, and then you had Bugs that really played a very uneven game, especially in the first half of that game. And then you did not that it mattered because of maybe the packages or whatnot. You obviously did not have Mike Hilton for that game, who is a what position do you want to call him? A slot backer.
I was just thinking slot backer. That's so funny you said that. Yeah.
I mean, quite honestly, when he is on the field, although he's not in base, you deter the run against you a little bit more. So then those are 2 big pieces of the puzzle there, right? And man, you got Alualu just playing out of his mind against both the pass and the run right now. So that's a big component. You got Robert Spillane a couple more games more experienced off the ball there. It goes back to your question there. How do you attack Lamar Jackson? Do you continually live inside of his head that he's going to get hit on every play? And does that stuff, and with all the pressure of everything else mounting on him, does that manifest into some sort of mistake or him not holding on to the football?
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I'm all for the mesh charge, but I think you have to add some other component behind it, whether that's playing less too high looks or maybe stunts or blitzing Hilton to be the mesh charge guy and letting, Watt and Dupree play the run in terms of the running back instead. I don't know exactly how you set it up, but I feel like you got to add a different wrinkle. I know that's tough on a short week, but even if you just add something slightly different to that, some sort of add-on, that's probably the approach I would prefer to take.
And I think the biggest point and the best part of what you had to say, what either of us had to say in the interview with John was the point about Nick Boyle.
Mm-hmm. What a big loss it is for those guys.
I mean, that's huge right now because they really haven't been able to run the ball since, right? Technically.
It's been a struggle. Yeah, I mean, I don't know exactly where they're at, but it's not been as successful. And he's probably the most underrated run blocker in football. And him and Ricard are really good, and they just don't have a replacement for. I mean, if anything, you could argue they've done a better job replacing Ronnie Stanley than they have Nick Boyle. As crazy as that may sound.
Right, and at some point, that loss of Ronnie Stanley is going to manifest itself too. Let's not kid ourselves.
Sure, probably more on the right side because they got Fluker now at right tackle.
Right. I mean, it hasn't yet. Does it feel like we know too much about the Ravens right now? That it's. Let me flip this around to you, Alex. If you're the Ravens right now heading into this game, knowing what you know about the Steelers, How are you running your offense this time?
That's a good question. I think it's almost for Baltimore, it's less about the opponent because you're just trying to figure out your own problems, just given their own offensive struggles. I think they've been held under 24 points in 4 straight games, which is crazy low for this offense. So that's a good question. I wish I had a better answer for you, but I think you got to get back to your own basics and try to figure out what you do well, especially when you're short on guys. Yeah, well, yeah. Of course, they're going to run the football. If they can't run the football, they will not win this game. But they got to create big plays in the pass game too.
What do you think about all the analysis last few weeks about Lamar in the middle of the field and outside the numbers?
Yeah, I think some of that's fair. I think some of the predictable comments. I mean, he's even said it that their offense feels too predictable. And so who am I to disagree with that? But I still think there's potency there. Mark Andrews is a beast. To line him as the number 3 and run these over routes, bending across the field to the X receiver side. And Hollywood Brown's still a big threat. Willie Snead's heating up, but yeah, I'm just surprised his offense has not created more splash plays. They only have 1 pass this season of 40+ yards. That's the fewest in football, which is crazy for the talent that's there. So. They got to figure something out.
Personally, what I think they should do is I think they stay within their identity. They go heavy. I think their best chance of moving the football in this game is putting the Steelers' base defense on the field. Doing something to get Vince Williams out in space, Spillane out in space, and potentially maybe look. You another point that you brought up. Willie Snead somehow was that cover 3 beater.
Right. Well, with Williams and Spillane, who was what matchup would scare you? Because there's no J.K. Dobbins. I mean, you're not putting Dobbins on those guys because Dobbins isn't there.
I don't know. Maybe Justin Hill becomes bigger X factor in this game than what nobody's talking about him. We just did. I love Justice Hill.
He ran 4.4 coming out of Oklahoma State.
I watched so much damn. The bad thing about watching on an Oklahoma State tape a couple of years ago is that you become sort of I don't know.
You got Stockholm syndrome.
Yeah, you
Oklahoma
did.
State kids.
You did. You watch so much of it. That's like that other kid. Who's that wide receiver that's still there? It feels like that receiver's been there damn 9 years right now, and he's still there. Oh, he's going to end up being drafted by the Patriots. You know who I'm talking about.
He's still at Oklahoma State.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's still there. That's going to kill me now. All of a sudden, I can't think of his name. The wide receiver there. But anyway, is that maybe a guy that we're not talking enough about?
Yeah, I think we should talk about him. About Devin Duvernay. Could they get him involved in some sort of run action game as well? He's a speedster out of Texas.
Dylan Stoner.
Dylan Stoner.
Doesn't it feel like I think he finally is, but doesn't it feel like he's been there like 9 years now? I guess maybe not to you because you didn't watch all that amount of tape that I did. All right, carry on. Down the rabbit hole, back up we go.
Yeah, but
my apologies.
Yeah, just trying to see what matchups they're going to create. But certainly, I mean, I think schematically they can still be sound, and they're always a potent group. So the fact that they're hurting and losing some guys, is not going to make me feel like this is going to be a walk in the park.
I mean, they're going to. Here's one of the things: we're going to see them call up this other back from the practice squad, Tyson Williams, right? And there's absolutely no way they trust him to be in the game plan. I wouldn't think. You can't have Edwards on the field for 60 snaps, right? So who's that leave left? I mean,
Hill.
It's got to be Hill, and within that, then I think that their game plan, even on a short week, is to try to devise something to get Justice Hill out in space and on a linebacker or safety and big play that way.
Yeah, I mean, it's all hands on deck for them. They got to use everybody. It's a short week. There are a lot of guys on COVID.
I think you do something to get him on the edge on top of it, which is an aspect of their running game that was not bad against the Steelers.
Yeah, you just put in the runs for Dobbins and you put Hill in because they're kind of similar guys.
Okay.
All right, Dave, anything else previewing this game, offense, defense? Of course, Ravens have great specialists with Sam Cook, the punter, and Justin Tucker, the kicker. So those are always advantages that Baltimore's going to have in basically every stadium they step into.
Yeah, absolutely. You get anywhere near midfield, and you automatically thinking that's 3 points there, there with him. I think the other aspect that you hit on too was Snead. That guy just going to be interesting to see what they try to do with Dez Bryant. Sort of, he's just been kind of a screen guy, right. So far, but at some point they're going to have to try to go down the field. I think, outside the numbers and down the field to Dez Bryant. So that's something else to maybe look for in this game.
All right, Dave. Before we get to our predictions and reader emails, let's talk about our friends over at MyBookie.
Let's do it. Late fall college ball, the NBA bubble, and UFC Fight Island. It's clear 2020 has been a year unlike any other, which is why you need a sports book with offers unlike any other. Get some skin in the game with MyBookie, where odds boost, lightning deals, and free bets await all season long. And with Turkey Day right around the corner, hell, it's here now. There really is no better time to feast on some NFL action. See what they did there? Feast on some NFL action. Whether you're a first-time customer, you've been playing with MyBookie for years, there is no shortage of value to be found in thousands of game lines, unique prop bets, and contests that they offer every week. Sign up or get reloaded today. Find an edge, make your bet, and get paid. They also boast a fully fledged casino platform giving you access to all the classic table, slot, and card games you expect to find at your local spot. And the best part is, at MyBookie, the doors never close, so you can continue to build your bankroll even after the stadium lights have gone out. Make the right play today and sign up today at MyBookie. And when you do, please use promo code TERRIBLE. That's terrible to get your deposit matched halfway, all the way up to $1,000. The terms are simple. You put in $200, they'll match you with another $100 in your account. If you were already planning to bet this season, this is free betting money. It's winning season at MyBookie, so come join in on the fun and win some cash while you're at it.
Permane Brothers found that Steelers fan with the hard hat and the King Dan Rudy tattoo.
That guy's diehard, isn't he?
But he's got a new commercial out, I guess, for Permane Brothers. So glad they tracked him down. All right, Dave. By the way, BJ Finney went on the reserve COVID list, so hopefully he's okay over there in Cincinnati. That news came across during the show. Let's get to our
future backup interior offensive lineman, BJ Finney.
Right, coming back to Pittsburgh in a couple of months. All right, how do you want to do predictions? There's a couple of Thanksgiving games, I guess, for us to pick, and then we can get to the Steelers game.
That sounds like the best. And then on Friday, we'll pick the rest of the Friday games to kind of keep people, because I know they sit on their seat waiting every episode for us to make these picks. So with that, let's go. Oh boy, it'd be good time for the tryptophan to kick in. Houston at Detroit to kick things off there. Actually, it's probably going to be a better game than most think here. The Texans playing a little bit better right now. On the road, the Texans are favored by 3.5.
Man, give me Houston all day on that. The Lions, I mean, how bad were they against Carolina, getting shut out against a pretty mediocre Panthers team? Yeah, give me the Texans.
Matt Patricia gone?
Yeah, for sure. Just a question of does he make it through the rest of the season?
Right. And what do you think is going to happen with Matthew Stafford? You think this is a blow it up time right now and move forward?
Will his contract allow it? I think he's still under contract for a while.
I think there's a little bit of a hit there, but look, if you change the coaching staffs, I think you got to pull. I think you got to do it all. In there. But anyway, regardless, I'm with you. I'll hold your hand. Lay the 3.5 with Houston. The Washington football team at the Dallas Cowboys. Another close spread in this one. Dallas at home, as always on Thanksgiving, laying 3 points.
I think I've picked against Washington almost every game this season. And they're hanging in there. Alex Smith is doing all right. They got guys like Scary Terry. Their defense is underrated.
How right were you and I about him?
About Scary Terry. Yeah. I mean, big vertical threat, big play guy for them. So give me Washington in this one.
Whew. Something, you smell a rat here? What is this?
I smell a game that's going to be boring that I'll be background noising for sure.
Is this just one of those home field? That's why the 3 points is involved here, or is there's something more to it? I want to be different here. Give me the Cowboys lay the 3 points here. I think they win by a touchdown. Some sort of late turnover here or something ends up costing Washington. So give me the home team Cowboys to lay the 3 points. Boy, that was quick. Here we are. Baltimore Ravens. This thing started off, I think, around 3 points. The COVID situations obviously played a part in this. Obviously, Steelers 10-0. Ravens a wounded bird, if you will. This game, I think, means more to the Ravens than it does to the Steelers, if that makes sense. The Steelers right now at home favored by 5 points. What you got?
It does mean more, but that doesn't always really change the outcome of games, obviously. Pittsburgh, better team on paper, the healthier team. I think the run defense will be better when you add Tyson Alualu and Mike Hilton's playing with a couple games under his belt. And, I just can't see Baltimore getting 265 again. All that being said, though, these games are always close. The Ravens are not going to go down quietly. And you might have a similar prediction here because you made a reference to it earlier in the show, Dave. I have Chris Boswell kicking a game-winning 43-yard field goal as time expires to win this one 23-20.
Oh, I thought she was going to say maybe Josh Scobie kick one. What was the overtime score? The one loss the Steelers have had to the Ravens on Thursday night under Mike Tomlin is to the Ravens, right? And it was 23-20 in overtime a few years ago, the Michael Vick Josh Scobie game, was it not? So you just went the revenge.
The reverse
you just went we just invented something. The reverse Scobie is what you just did, right?
The least popular term in the world, the reverse Scobie. That was unintentional, but hopefully it comes out the right side for Pittsburgh.
All right. I too think this is going to be there's just something about this. It's Steelers Ravens. I think people are underselling the short week aspect. I think people are underscoring the wounded bird thing here. It's Steelers Ravens, period. I think people are underscoring the Steelers' ability to stop that Ravens running game. Maybe that's going to be a big factor. I want to go Ravens winning this one. It's eating me up inside as I told you so. But there's a part of me that thinks that the Steelers end up eking this out too, and that's the side that I'm gonna lean to. I think this is a close game though, Alex. 2019. This is classic Steelers Ravens, old school, close score. Nobody wins by more than 3 points. It's going to go. I'm not going to be surprised if the Ravens win this. All right. But I think it's going to be a lot closer. I think both offenses are going to struggle potentially in this game. I think there's going to be a turnover or two in this game that we're talking about. I'll put it this way. Steelers fans are going to have plenty to bitch about in this game. How's that?
And a happy Thanksgiving to everybody else.
Enjoy it.
During the game. I hear you.
Hey, only I can set up a game like that, right?
Yeah. JB on CBS doesn't allow to have that kind of outro, but
people can't wait till I get unplugged from this thing. Boy, it's going to be monumental when that happens, and then the terrible podcast will become better anyway. As a, why do we deal with so much minutia? Someone emailed in and says, "Man, I love the show, but why do y'all go so deep into minutia? How would you answer that?"
I think that's just the way we're wired. I think we like that kind of hyper-specific stuff and the intricacies of the game, and we don't focus on, if you want to look at the big picture stuff and the hot takes and all that, there's a lot of resources out there to do that. You can watch ESPN, you can watch Fox Sports, you can watch whatever. I think we can give you something different for the real hardcore fan. And obviously we talk about the big picture stuff too, so I understand it's not for everybody, but I think just the way we like to really get into the nitty-gritty of the game.
I mean, don't you want to know why it looks like a roster's 46 and it's 54 and it's actually 53 right now? That's the kind of stuff that I live for. Don't you want to know what a contract and a cap hit and all is going to look like? That's the kind of stuff that we do. We understand that it's not for everybody, but I think our numbers kind of bear it out that I think people still like this show after 10 seasons of it all. With that, take the Ravens plus the 5 points and play the under and thank Uncle Dave later.
All right, there you go. All right, Dave, let's get to some reader emails and close out today's show.
All right, let's do it here. Let's see. Floyd writes it. No, that's spam right there. That's a great way to start off with some spam. Hey, Dave and Alex, love interacting with you guys on Twitter. It's great interacting with Steelers fans who don't expect us to re-sign everyone while getting J.J. Watt, Randy Moss, Travis Kelce, etc. Question, no idea about the media side. You guys always talk about the media not asking the right questions and wishing you could ask the coaches other questions. How hard would it be, or is it possible to get access to something like that? How could Steelers Depot get a reporter in that room to ask these coaches, players the proper questions instead of asking them what their favorite flavor of ice cream is? What is the price requirements? It's not a price requirement thing. It's, look, we have given the media department hell over the years talking about the Steelers. They have been a lot more, what's the best word? Workable, I don't know.
Just open, just more open.
Open to kind of working with us as of late, and we thank them for it. Do we want to entertain getting someone part of that, Alex? What's the best way? Look, we are not liked. The reason we are not liked, yesterday on the site we had, how many posts do we have on the site, Alex?
30-something.
30-something posts. Now, some people say, well, I could live without some of those 30 posts, but it's what we do. All right. We want it. What does depot mean? It means you can find everything there. All right. It's what we do. Also, we have such fantastic people like Matthew Marksey, like Alex Kozora, like Tom Mead, like Josh Carney, like Brad, like Mel, Dr. Mel. We'd be silly not to put out tons of content like we do and hit everything imaginable under the sun. We want people to say, man, you guys put out way too much content. All right. And because of that, because of us hitting every little quote and whatnot, the media don't like us.
Yeah, and just to bounce off that, I just was literally sent the DB report card from Owen Straley for the Jaguars game, 3,500 words on the defensive backs specifically. He's doing a fantastic job with those. To answer the question, sure, it's something that's there is no literal barrier that we couldn't do, and it's probably something we should explore a little bit more at some point. Especially with the everything being virtual right now. I don't know how much longer that'll change, or that'll be the case for next season, or the long-term implications of the media player organization relationship. But sure, I think it's a valid question, and we have obviously done things with Access before. We've done player interviews and broken stories, or been at the Senior Bowl in past years, and go to training camp and stuff like that. So there is an element of that. I don't think we're completely absent of some component of the traditional media / journalism type stuff, but I think the lane that we've carved has been successful, and that's where our focus is at.
All right, Bryce is back, brought back an email box. I know exactly why we're seeing the production we're seeing from Tyson Alualu. He's got a high pedigree, strong hand usage, aggressive, and gets to play between two absolute monsters in Cam and Tuitt, plus has TJ and Bud as his outside linebackers. All that equals him getting less attention and more opportunities to shine. I've solved the riddle. LOL. Your thoughts? Look, it's not that obviously is a component by the people he is surrounded by, but just flat out some instances 1-on-1 and sometimes 1-on-2. He's just winning, man. And it's monster winning.
Yeah, he's a very technical player. He's a hard worker. He's an intelligent player. As you mentioned, the hand use, the block shedding, the vision on the football, just very detail-oriented. I did the article this week about the pass deflections he's had, and he's got 4 of them this year. Had one of them last year that turned into a Devin Bush interception. So just a guy that really loves football, it appears, and loves the details of the game and has mastered that, and that allows you to be a pretty special player. I
mean, would Tyson Alualu still be doing the things that he's doing if Wormley and, I don't know, Bugs were outside of him?
maybe not to that exact extent because he may just see more double teams, maybe more of a focus on dealing with him. But obviously, if he's still gotten one-on-one matchups, he could still win that regardless of who may be around him.
You know, we totally glossed over one of the things that Cam Hayward talked to the media yesterday, and it didn't hit me when looking kind of at the transcription. It did when I watched the actual video of the Zoom interview there. Short to the point. We forget that Tyson Alualu was a first-round draft pick.
Mm-hmm. I don't think I've forgotten it. I've harped on that a lot. The only guy out of that 2010 class that's played more games than Tyson Alualu is Ndamukong Suh. So, I mean, this guy's been available. He's been not the best player from that class, obviously, but, I mean, yeah, 10th overall pick. And he was a reach at the time. Everyone criticized that pick. Jaguars fans were booing him, and maybe it didn't work out ideally in Jacksonville, but it's working out well in Pittsburgh.
What would you say is Alualu's weakness?
He's not a great individual pass rusher. He's not an amazing twitchy athlete the way that, Stephon Tuitt is, for example. And so the sack protection is pretty low. He's only got like 2 sacks over the last 3 seasons or whatever the number is. So he's not obviously like a phenomenal pass rusher, but everything else is just a really solid player.
All right, portion number 2. Alex has proven to be a prophet about Randy Fichtner. He does not do well with building plays on top of other plays. Actually, I don't find it still to be 100% true. I think there's some aspects that we're seeing now. There is a point right now where we need to see built off of certain areas, things like the whole Claypool motion aspect. I think we need have built off of, but on top of it too, how much if you want to credit Ben, would essentially being the offensive coordinator in this offense, which several people would have you to believe. Am I correct, Alex?
Yeah, some people have said that for sure.
All right. Then how much does the onus of building stuff off that fall under Ben maybe not wanting certain aspects added to certain things?
Maybe. It's hard to say, but obviously I would reject that heavy of a premise overall. I mean, Ben's influence is obvious, but he's not literally running the show 100% of the time.
Well, I mean,
I know we know that.
Right, but if something works, who gets credit? Ben.
Right.
I mean, and I think that's what Bryce. I think Bryce is trying to pump up a narrative of his that he hates Randy Fichtner by going this aspect.
Well, what did he say? That he just said he wants Fichtner to work on constraint plays, which I think is a fair critique.
Should be, let's see, nonetheless, if Ravens D this week, I would actually come out and play nickel and dime and force Ben and Randy to have to call more runs. He's saying I would actually come out and play. Well, look, they might not. Look, personnel dictates a lot of times what opposing defenses do, Bryce.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And he's saying he's saying he would force the Steelers' hand and Randy to have to call more runs and see how much more creative can the Steelers be with runs, Alex? I think that's a good jump off point here.
I'm sure there's things they can add and little tweaks and wrinkles, but to me, it's really what I'll let go some of the things the players have said. It's really more about getting back to basics. I think when you're struggling, I don't know if you want to start adding all this new stuff. I think you just want to get back to like your power run game that is not working the way it needs to be. So I put the focus there rather than let's add this interesting wrinkle. Usually I do that whenever things are going well as opposed to when things are going poorly.
Certain aspects I'd still like to see, and once again, this goes back to a question that and I think you'd be able to really build off of your offense this way, is why are we only seeing Sasquatch once every blue moon? And by that I mean Ben under center running play action. Hell, I'd settle for pistol play action, right?
Yeah, that is definitely a Ben does not like it, therefore we do not do it type thing.
Okay, so why isn't that talked about more instead of going after Randy Fichtner building off top of other plays?
Well, I know we've discussed the low play action rates, and I know some of the
that's
advanced analytics, and then some of the advanced analytics guys have discussed it as well. But yeah, I mean that's also fair. You're not wrong.
But okay, I admit that play action. I think the misnomer is you have to, and what it's always been, and I think statistics have kind of backed this up, is you don't have to run the football for play action to work.
Sure.
And I think I think the touchdown to Eric Ebron is an exclamation point to that. So, look, if what I'm getting at here is if you're going to put some of this on Randy, you better put a lot of it on Ben.
Yeah, I mean, blame does not fall on one person 100% of the time too often, and there's always blame to go around.
All right, you're going to love part 3 of this.
All right.
Sorry, Dave, but this next point I'm about to make is strictly for Alex. Alex, like you were with the Phoenix Suns, I am very optimistic about who my favorite NBA team, the New York Knicks, took in last Wednesday's NFL draft. This is a year of my Dayton Flyers. First, Troutman to the Saints. Now, Obi Toppin goes number 8 to the Knicks. I wouldn't know that guy if he's in my kitchen right now. And hopefully he's not, because I got turkey and ham down there. Great offensive player with very underrated upside. Just thought I'd mention that. Now back to focusing on the Steelers. What's Troutman doing with the Saints?
He had a couple of catches last week. He's gotten involved a little bit. They've had some injuries there. Let me see what his stats for the year are. But yeah,
and what do you think about Obi? What do you think about Obi Toppin?
My one buddy's the one guy, well, not a buddy, but YouTuber, is a Knicks fan / Steelers fan, and he didn't love the pick, but then they drafted another guard, I think, later on in the draft. It's like 23 or something. So it seemed, I don't know, they got to get back to the playoffs. It's been such a long time coming for them. Troutman this year, 7 catches, 92 yards, and a touchdown.
Okay. I haven't really focused. I will during the off season get kind of back into looking at how some of these guys have done. Ben Hoyler writes in, "Hey Dave, I'd buy a T-shirt that says however, comma. By the way, that's let's see, love the show, Ben H. Look, we're still working on the one. Let us get past the one T-shirt first for charity. Then we'll see what happens. A lot of this stuff we're not, like an app and all like that. We're not going to be able to get to until after the season ends. We just are not enough hours in a day. Mark Stankus writes, that can't be a real name, right? Mark Stankus. Mark writes in, "Hey guys, thanks for all the hard work on every show you put in all season long. As a big fan from Metro Detroit, I utilize the show for all my news. I really appreciate your input, not just on the Steelers, but on their opponents as well. I really value the best writers you bring on, the beat writers that you have on to be experts for their team. And it's nice to know that your outlet isn't completely one-sided and keeps it fair, all while rooting for the Steelers when it comes down to it. It's a great season so far that makes me proud to be a long-time fan when I literally have one of the biggest embarrassments in pro sports, the Lions, about 20 miles from my home." Mark, are you close to Warren, Michigan, Centerline area and all like that? I've got some family. I've walked a few, spent some time up there in that area there. So let me know back on that. I don't have any questions or other comments. Just want to pass along big thanks and keep up the great work. Hey, what a great way. Great thank you on a Thanksgiving there from Mark. Alex.
Yeah, thank you, Mark, and thank you to all the listeners for your support and listenership, and hope you all have a very safe and happy and fulfilling Thanksgiving.
One last one. From Janae. Reading this email just in case. Resending this. Primary question is this one about opening offensive series. I'll shut up on this. I'll let you have all of this, Alex. Dave and Alex, the purpose of scripted opening drive and answer was to see how defense reacts with certain plays. We didn't say that's the only reason. I said that's part of the reason. Curious as to why offense won't script plays so that they score on the opening drive, i.e. plays execute well, targeting defense weakness, and then use the next drive to test or probe defense or on reaction. Seems better to have a lead. Yes, I'm assuming points are scored, and then probe defense on reactions to certain plays. Number 2, couldn't tell as much with the Jags game, but why are teams targeting Joe Hayden more than Steven Nelson?
Well, to the first question, as Dave said, it was not solely to test teams. You're trying to obviously always score whenever you have the football. And then to your point about, well, why don't you score first and then test later? Well, usually to score, you got to figure out what the defense is going to do and where you can attack them. So you got to test first before you go after your plan of attack and see what they're responding to. So I think you just have the order reversed there. In terms of why Hayden gets targeted more than Nelson, that's a good question. They're not traveling, they're playing side, so it's not like that Hayden's always facing their top guy. So I don't know for sure. It may just be the teams that they face have a better receiver on that right side who plays more right side, and so Hayden sees more targets. Could be something else. I haven't really thought about it a whole lot.
Yeah, look, maybe during the off season, what we'll try to do is we'll try to get Charlie Batch on again, or maybe a former offensive coordinator. I sure would love to have Todd Haley on.
We could probably ask. I don't know.
Yeah, I think Todd took issue with some things that we wrote or maybe said about him. The thing is, I've always been kind of a bigger than most Todd Haley fan. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I think just he'd still be the offensive coordinator if his personality meshed more with Ben's. You know,
Mm-hmm.
People are probably looking back now. You know, it's kind of funny. You get people holler for Bruce Arians' head. They get 2 years into Todd Haley. They say, "Man, you were right, Dave. They should have never fired Bruce Arians." They get Randy Fichtner in 3 years in him. They say, "Oh boy, Dave, you were right." I get emails from that. Boy, you're right about Todd Haley. We shouldn't have moved on from him. Funny how that works.
Do you think fans will pine for Randy Fichtner someday?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. But I would love to get Todd Haley on, and more specifically an offensive coordinator, and maybe Charlie Batch as well too, and say, look, take us step by step what goes through scripts, and what's the goal, and how different do those goals maybe change on a week to week basis. We could come up with a good 6 or 7 questions to make an interview out of.
Yeah, we could talk an hour on that alone, I'm sure.
You know, because look, we're not in there, right? We don't know. We think we know, but we don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the beauties about what we do is we know, but we don't know. And trying to figure out what we don't know a lot of times makes it worth the while. All right. Did I get you to answer both those? Yeah.
Yeah. I answered the Hayden part not well, but I attempted to answer it.
All right. With that, all right. We will be, let's see, we got the game on Thursday. We got we'll sleep fast. We'll get up. We'll talk about the game on Friday. Then we'll give our picks and whatnot for Friday. Obviously, Friday's show will mostly be spent recapping the game and that sorts there. So any other final thoughts? Once again, I reiterate what Alex said. Look, I come off a little bit harsh, a lot harsher than Alex, if you imagine that in these shows. But we certainly do appreciate the listenership. We appreciate the questions that we get. We appreciate the interactions that we get on Twitter. We hope that everybody has a very peaceful and enjoyable and prosperous Thanksgiving. And just, don't forget the reason of the season. It's always I like to go back to and Thanksgiving has thanks in it. So be thankful. And Alex and I are more than thankful for what this show has become, what the site has become. And without people reading it and listening to the show, we wouldn't have any of this. So any other, I'll let you add some closing thoughts there, Alex.
No, you said it well. I just echo what I said earlier. Hope everyone has a safe travels if you're traveling, and just stay safe, and hope you have a great Thanksgiving.
All right. So with that, we will be back on Friday. And as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.